Marvel's Darkest Heroes, Kamen Rider Transformations in American Comics. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 76. Underground Fortress. Take it as much as you like, it was originally for you. On the airship, Yen Tianxin smelled the scent of tea, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This underground fortress was arranged by him to build Show Magia a few days ago. The underground fortress itself is no different from an ordinary hiding fortress, but the things in it are good things that are not available on Earth. There are Kamen Rider Osri's ordinary coins, self-compiled information on Orif Enoch, undead, etc., and a few gadgets powered by Gaia's memory. Anyway, most of them are items that don't help him much, but release them to earn a lot of impact factors. Basically, they are all won by ordinary impact factor lottery. Not a good thing, but it's precious to shield. The speed of your airship is really good, not much slower than an airplane. Tony was playing chess with Dr. Ethan, looking out the window, and asked, I think it's really better than a private jet. Sell me a horse? Sorry, core technology, not for sale. Yen Tianxin shook his head and said coquettishly. He talks little in front of outsiders, but friends are still normal. All right. I made it myself. Tony's mouth was not used to Yen Tianxin's face. Haha, prepare 10 billion. Of course, you may not be able to make 10 billion. Yen Tianxin smiled confidently. This airship uses a lot of black technology in Kamen Rider 01. Even if the drawings are taken out, Tony will have to digest the formation. However, with Tony's ingenuity, Yen Tianxin did not doubt that he could imitate it. Another half hour. You guys should be faster. Yen Tianxin glanced at his watch, and his face was full of inexplicable smiles. Atlanta Farm. The SHIELD agents who entered the underground fortress, like Grandma Lu, entered the Grand View Garden. Oh my god, what's that? A bunch of silver coins? Not silver, not like other metals. There's Gaia memory here. Well, how do these Gaia memories feel wrong? This is a gun? Driven by what? There is no place to load the bullet. There's a diary here. There are lots of photos and information of monsters inside. You successfully influenced the ordinary agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and obtained 100 ordinary impact factors. You successfully influenced the ordinary agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and obtained 100 ordinary impact factors. You successfully influenced Hawkeye Clinton Barton, get 100 special impact factors. You successfully influenced Nick Fury and obtained 100 special impact factors. Your success. The agents quickly searched the underground fortress with an area of about 100 square meters, and every time they found something new, they would provide a large number of impact factors. This made Yen Tian's heart blossom with joy. Agents began escorting the scene back to the plane. 7 people, an average of 2 trips per person. Soon, 10 minutes have passed. In the end, the entire underground fortress, except for some tables, chairs and ordinary gadgets, was left with only a mysterious safe. I don't know what material the safe is made of. It's very heavy. 7 people wasted their strength, exhausted all kinds of tools and means, and could not lift. And the password setting of the safe is not a number. It's a display screen, like a high-tech product. Maybe the fingerprint needs to be scanned to open the pupil. Boss, it may be difficult to get it today. Clinton was sweating. This safe, it doesn't look big, but it's surprisingly heavy. In terms of density, it surpasses most metals on Earth. They use electric drills and beatings that don't leave any scars. If not for the contents inside, it is also worth studying with the material of this safe itself. Think of a way. Nick Fury's face was slightly gloomy. This ordinary-looking safe is the most difficult thing to take away in the entire underground fortress. Then, its value must be the highest. Nick Fury firmly believes that if he loses this safe, he will definitely feel distressed. Well, Clinton took a few deep breaths, and the 7 men looked around the safe madly with crowbars. But unfortunately, the safe still does not move. Momja Fark. Nick Fury slammed the table and couldn't wait to rush to the scene himself. Boss, Yen Tianxin's airship, it's only 20 minutes away from the farm. Coulson immediately reminded. So, can you send the Air Force to intercept them? Haha, tease you. Nick Fury looked at Coulson's speechless appearance, smiled, and then immediately expressionless, and ordered, forget it, leave it alone. Yen Tianxin is coming, and let his father leave something for him. Nick Fury took a deep breath and looked at the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who were recovering from the surroundings. Not a single footprint, not a single fingerprint was left behind, and the dust was also covered. However, out of doubt, Nick Fury asked Clinton to install an ultra-small camera in the corner of the underground fortress. If Yen Tianxin and the others opened the safe, they would also know what the other party had got. If it is something very important, ask Ili E in the future. The agents retreated quickly. The plane flew away just before the airship of Yen Tianxin and the others arrived. Hey, someone in this poor part of Atlanta also flies a private plane? A huge ship flew over the farm. Looking at the plane thousands of meters away, Tony showed a puzzled expression. In his eyes, except for New York, other cities are rural places. Not to mention Atlanta, which is not famous for its economy. You say this. Watch out for those dirt buns that trouble you. Yan Tianxin rolled his eyes. You say this more than me, Tony immediately complained. The two quarreled, waited until the airship fell, and slowly walked to the front of the farm. How long has it been since I lived there? A bad smell. Yan Tianxin covered his nose in disgust. That's right, this is it. When I came to meet him in New York, he lived here. Narumi Shokichi had a nostalgic look on his face. He stepped on thick rotten leaves, breathed deeply, and walked along the path to the farm's dwelling. With a gentle push, the door opens. So, where did Yan Hongyin put what she left me? Yan Tianxin gently flashed the air in front of him. The smell of decay drilled straight into his nose. According to my memory, in the basement, there is a secret room. Narumi Shokichi led the way and led the three to the basement. Right under this water purifier. He pointed to the water purifier. Yan Tianxin and Tony glanced at each other. I don't have Iron Man armor. I don't have a drive belt. Both spread their hands. I'll do it, alas. Narumi Shokichi took out the skull memory and turned into a skull doping body to open this underground door. The four-person squad also entered it one by one. Episode 77. Swift Wind, Ace. No, nothing. Just entered the bunker and looked around the empty surroundings. Yan Tianxin and Tony shouted in surprise. Your real father loves you a lot. Tony raised an eyebrow at Yan Tianxin. Yes, he loves me. Yan Tianxin yin and yang strange chi. Only Narumi Shokichi persuaded seriously. Don't worry, there is also a safe. In this safe, it is the most precious thing. Following Narumi Shokichi's instructions, the eyes of the four people were all focused on the safe that the shield agent could not get away with all his might. This safe, Yan Tianxin, is made of metal atomic clusters. It can be injected into the program, and if there is no special program to unlock, without millions of tons of strength, it is impossible to take it. How much is the password for the safe? Yan Tianxin squatted down, glanced at the panel of the safe, and then glanced at Shokai Zhuangji. This safe, in my impression, doesn't seem to use a password. Narumi Shokichi thinks about it, as if he is reminiscing. Then with what? The three asked in unison. It should be your father's human face recognition. Narumi Shokichi's eyes flashed. Yan Hongin's human face. Forget it, I'll try if I can take it away. Directly unravel it. Yan Tianxin rolled his eyes. He called down a few shimegia from the airship and began to escort the transport in various postures. Hey, hee hee, haha. On the plane of shield, looking at the embarrassed appearance of Yan Tianxin and the four people who couldn't pick up the box despite all their means, the shield agents laughed happily. Coulson and Nick Fury also had happy smiles on their faces. I have been ugly, and I am very happy to see others come out again. It's best if you can't turn it on either. Nick Fury thought evilly. What he can't get, Yan Tianxin better not get. However, the truth did not go his way. In the underground fortress, the four of them were tired and panting, and Shumeijia's power consumption was also more than half. I don't believe it yet. Izzy, transfer me 10 lifting machines. The address is at. Yan Tianxin sat on the ground, without any image to speak of, and he was angry and contacted Izzy, who was far away in New York. Wait, Yan. But the other three interrupted him in unison. Turning his head, 3 pairs of eager eyes surrounded him. Look, your chest is glowing. Tony pointed to Yan Tianxin's chest. Sure enough, a burst of green light flickered under Yan Tianxin's attachment. It's Yupei. Several people reacted. What secrets is hidden in the jade parry that Yan Hongyin left to Yan Tianxin? Yan Tianxin took out Yupei. It really glowed with emerald green light, and the character swallow written on the small seal flickered faintly. This Yupei is also high-tech. Tony grumbled. You know what? This is Yupei's aura. Yan Tianxin gave him a white eye. Tony just got to the point. This Yupei is indeed not the one he has been close to since he was a child, but is restored one-to-one by using high technology, in order to create a sense of mystery. All right? I don't understand either. Tony shrugged his shoulders, and then watched with burning eyes as Yan Tianxin brought Yupei to the safe. Multiply. Safe responded. Yupei's light reflected into the screen of the safe, and the safe suddenly made a sound. Click click click. Cha! Finally, its door opened directly. Woohoo! Several people cheered, as if they had done something amazing. Let's see what's inside. Several people took out all the contents of the safe. There was a small wooden box, a red coin, and a couple of unnamed things. The 4 people took these things and looked at each other. What is this coin? Not like glass and plastic, more like some kind of gem. What is it for? And this phone? Such a corny mobile phone, and it is still so tightly hidden. Are you stupid? 20 years ago, this kind of mobile phone was considered a high-end thing. A few people are discussing one by one, fiercely. Finally, several people's eyes fell on the wooden box in Yan Tianxin's hand. What's in the box? Facing these pairs of curious eyes, Yan Tianxin no longer dragged mud and water, and directly opened the small wooden box, revealing the true appearance of the things inside. In the box, there are 2 Gaia memories, one black and one green, and an earth drive belt. It's Gaia memory and its drive. Narumi Shokichi came interested and took out the 2 Gaia memories. Immediately, after seeing the appearance of the 2 memory bodies, his complexion changed instantly. This is the ace memory and the wind memory. A look of ecstasy appeared on his face. The ace memory and the wind memory are the earliest pure memories and have the most powerful power. These are 2 memories that belong to your father alone. Your father is invincible with them. I thought that these 2 memories would follow your father and disappear into the darkness, but unexpectedly, he left it to you. Yen Tianxin held the 2 memories in his hand, and felt heavy when he paused. 727. I take back my previous words, in the face of danger, leave my strongest strength to you, your father can still do it. Tony patted Yen Tianxin's shoulder. Yen Tianxin was silent for a while, and put the Ewenkyu wind actuator belt and 2 cover memorandi back into the box. Then take it with you. And Shield and others, who watched all this remotely, were remorseful. I said, the safe is the most important thing. Nick Fury shouted at the agents, 2 of the best Gaia memories, what we've been seeking for so long and haven't got. Just slipped under our noses. And we, the so-called best agents, are powerless on the spot. The agents were silent, and Hawkeye Clinton blamed himself. At that time, there should be more ways. It's just that with so many things, he is somewhat satisfied. Now regret, it's too late. They could only watch as Yen Tianxin packed up the Gaia memory and other goodies. Even after unlocking the safe, as if opening its mechanism, the safe was actually picked up by a Shumagia. They ate and actually took the pot away. Episode 78. Kageyama Tsutoko. Compared to the depression of Shield and others, Tony and the others felt full of loads. Although these things have nothing to do with him, they will be sent to Tianxin Intelligence for research. But he also has a certain sense of involvement. He also had something of interest, but it wasn't clearly said. He just expressed his affection. He felt, perhaps, Yen Tianxin, for the sake of the 2 being good friends, would give him something. Yen Tianxin did not. With all the things, directly back to Tianxin Intelligence. Then he didn't give a cup of tea, and called him to send off customers with a robot little secretary. I swear, the next time Yen Tianxin comes to Stark Industries, I won't even prepare a stool for him. Tony looked at the Tianxin Intelligent Fortress behind him and made a poisonous oath, then angrily walked in the direction of Stark Industries. Dr. Ethan and Shokichi Narumi looked at each other, shrugged their shoulders helplessly, and followed. The gentle sunlight hit Jin Yu's face. He woke up from his sleep. Where is this? His huge body got up from the bed, and at a glance, he saw 2 of his henchmen sleeping on the 2 beds next to him. Knocked unconscious? Kim touched the back of his head. He only remembered that Lord Utopia was defeated, and the 3 of them were directly beaten back to their original form by the Emperor Insect Hero Yen Tianxin. 4 people were taken away by the FBI. However, someone killed halfway and rescued himself and others. It seems that this is the base of Lord Utopia. Jean thought about it, looked at the curtains that swayed in the wind not far away, and walked to the window. It's like a manor, located in a certain forest, surrounded by black railings. There are horse farms, vineyards, gardens, fountains. Adults are farming. Small children play and frolic everywhere. A sight of paradise. You're awake. Jean turned his head, and an elegant oriental woman was holding a wine glass and looking at him with a smile. You are? Kim looked at her. My name is Kageyama Yako. It's the owner here. Also a friend of Utopia. Kageyama Yako smiled and drank the wine in her glass. Here, is your base? Jean asked suspiciously, pointing at the children. There are still children here. You can think so. This is the base and our home, Kageyama Yako introduced. Those children are not ordinary human children. Jean frowned, looked at the scene, and then his pupils shrank. Not far away, 2 small children seemed to clash over a certain toy. The 2 actually turned into monsters in an instant and fought together. In between, trees are destroyed, boulders are cracked, and steel is twisted. And in the distance came an ordinary woman. She became angry and turned into an even more powerful monster. The 2 child monsters were slapped by her, and immediately returned to their original form and cried. You successfully influenced Jinha and got 100 special impact factors. This is. Jean looked at the scene in front of him, cold sweat on his forehead. Looking at the men and women who were farming and the children playing and frolicking, their eyes became a little frightened. The people in front of you are probably not human. That's right, we are not humans, but Orphinos. Kageyama looked at Kane's face and pinched his face with her hand. Orphinok, I seem to have heard. Lord Utopia once chattered, called Orpheus the enemy of the museum. The enemy of the enemy is a friend. Kim said, that's right. We and the museum have a feud against the sky. Kageyama Yako's eyes immediately showed a deep hatred. She gritted her teeth and said viciously, every museum person deserves to die by 1,000 cuts. In Jin's shocked gaze, Kageyama Yako crushed the goblet in his hand directly. The pieces of the goblet actually turned into quicksand and slowly descended. Enoch, Does it have anything to do with humans? Kim asked. Orphe Enoch is the evolutionary form of human beings. Kageyama Yako smiled at Jean and said, Kageyako, do you want to merge? Jean looked at her smile and instantly felt a chill in his back. I don't understand what you mean. He shook his head slightly. Don't play the fool. Utopia has said it, you are very clever. Transform the three of you into Orphinos, you won't blame me, will you? Kageyama Yako looked at him and licked his tongue over his lips. I really want to know what level you strong among humans will be after evolving into Orpheus Enoch. Sorry, I think, as a human, it's good. Jean and his forehead dripped coldly. Although I don't know how to evolve into Orpheano, just listening to Kageyama Yako's tone, I know that it is not a good thing. He looked at the woman in front of him warily, afraid that she would suddenly make a move. Haha. Don't worry, you're Utopia's right-hand man, and he's up to you to test the upgrade status of Gaia's memory. How angry he would be if he turned you into Orphe Enoch and couldn't use Gaia's memory. Kageyama Yako burst out laughing. By the way, Utopia said, the three of you, next train with me. Wait until the time is right, and let the three of you out. Rest assured, my training here will definitely give you a huge improvement. Kageyama swayed and walked out of the room. This woman, Jean looked at her back, vigilant and never frowned. Kageyama Yako, give him a feeling of extreme danger. I must become strong for everyone, so that I can control my own destiny. Kim clenched his fists. Originally, he was in New York, and the local emperor was well-deserved. Unexpectedly, he parachuted a Utopia and directly became his boss. The boss is the boss. The boss's strength is so strong, and he has given him great strength, and he will recognize it. However, after only a few days of arrogance, all kinds of powerful enemy fathers immediately appeared. Each one can press him and fight. In the early stage, there can be a Utopia to save the field, and in the back, even the Utopia itself has been blown up. His own group followed him into prisoners, and now they have become a group of displaced people living under the fence. What's even scarier is that the place where you live is full of monsters. Jean He's mind is extremely complicated all of a sudden. The desire for power becomes strong. I swear, if anyone can give me the strength to surpass everything, I will be crushed on him. Jean leaned against the window, looked at the glorious sun in front of him, and made his vows. Episode 79. Museum Envoy. Hello, is it S.H.I.E.L.D.? I am an envoy of the museum, yes, to exchange for ours. Early in the morning, a sudden phone call woke up S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. But hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, the anger of the agents suddenly turned into surprise. The mysterious museum organization from across the ocean has arrived. After some discussion within S.H.I.E.L.D., the trading location was set in a hotel. Nick Fury, Coulson leads, Hawkeye Clinton and Agent Hill lead people in charge of security. Several people arrived at the reserved hotel early and waited for each other's arrival. What kind of person will your envoy be? In the hall, only Nick Fury sat alone at the table. Coulson and other agents took Tianjin and the others and waited in a room not far away. Coulson is responsible for psychological construction of the members of the Never Squad these days. But the rest of the people's tempers were so smelly that almost no one paid attention to him except Tianjin. Fortunately, Tianjin should have a better temper and a good person. Coulson and Tianjin should chat, and they are familiar with each other a lot. To be honest, this is the first time I've heard the museum have the title of envoy. It is estimated that so many never-inhabited 253 members are being held, and the museum is also a little anxious. Tianjin Yu shrugged his shoulders. Then can't we make a sky-high price? Coulson's eyes lit up. It's better not to, and museums are not complaining. Although the Never team members are precious, if the museum spends a lot of money to cultivate, it can also cultivate a lot. You guys want Gaia memory? I guess it's a little difficult. Tianjin should say casually. I see. Coulson nodded and drank in greeting. Time passes minute by minute. Finally, at 10 o'clock in the morning, no more, no less, a young and beautiful figure entered everyone's sight. She was in her early 20s, very cute, with dimples on her face and dressed in a girly suit. As soon as she entered, she attracted the attention of many men in the restaurant. After all, Caucasian women, the most girly age is around the age of 14, and then matures quickly. This kind of girl who can maintain a girlish feeling in her 20s can only be found in the East. Watching Yuan Li and Ruona sit in front of Nick Fury, who was blind and still a black man, many men feel pity. You are the director of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Hello, my name is Yuan Ruona, and I am the special envoy of the museum to this negotiation. Yuan Ruona stretched out a hand and smiled, her two dimples filled with sunlight. Hello. Even though Nick Fury was hard-hearted, he was infected by this sunny smile and shook her hand. So, let's get down to business. What do you want for me to bring them back? The garden is straight to the point. It depends on your sincerity. Nick Fury said, if your sincerity is not high, it is still not a problem for S.H.I.E.L.D. to raise a few idlers. Team Eve, all of good quality, meets our shield signature standards. I heard, you guys really want Gaia memory? Yuan Li and Ruona looked at Nick Fury. Yes, we need the power of Gaia's memory. Nick Fury doesn't deny it. Look at these, is it enough? Yuan Ruona took out a small wooden box out of nowhere. Open it lightly, it's 6 Gaia memories. 1 man, 1 Gaia memory. What do you think? Sonasaki Ruina's face was full of confidence, and she seemed to feel stable. Nick Fury began to look surprised, and after taking the memory to look at it, he sneered and put down the box. Miss Envoy, who are you getting in the lake? These Gaia memories are not available to people. It's about special equipment to drive. Nick Fury sneered, secretly luck in my heart. A few days ago, in Yen Tianxin's biological father's bunker, they harvested several such Gaia memories and did relevant research. These Gaia memories do have magical powers, but they cannot be used by people, but must be used with specific weapons. For example, what autumn worm mobile phone, manta camera, snail telescope, and so on. Although the use value is not low, it is far worse than the normal Gaia memory. Unexpectedly, today Sonasaki Ruona actually used this thing to get him in the lake. Not even related equipment. What did you do? They told you. The smile on Yuan Li and Ruona's face disappeared, and her eyebrows lifted. It seems impossible to imagine how Nick Fury learned the news. Her eyes looked into the room not far away, as if she suspected that there was a traitor in the Never squad. We at S.H.I.E.L.D. have our own methods. Why, Miss Envoy, if you can't come up with something more valuable, then please go home, get ready another day, and negotiate again. Rest assured, your people, S.H.I.E.L.D. will take good care of it. Nick Fury chuckled. Wait, Yuan Li and Ruona's face was not very good looking. The hand groped behind his back, and out of nowhere he touched a box. There are 2 special dopants here, and they also come with drive belts, so if you think you can, exchange them. Yuan Li and Ruina handed the box to Nick Fury. Nick Fury was not afraid that the other party would harm him, and opened it directly and boldly. 2 Gaia memories, 1 blue and 1 purple, appeared in front of him. Excel/speed memory and trial/trial memory. This is a newly developed memory that is extremely destructive and extremely fast. However, they are very demanding for the user. Suitability is only one aspect, and the user's physical fitness must also pass. Yuan Li and Wakana introduced. Well, I want to inspect the goods a priori. Nick Fury picked up 2 Gaia memories, waved his hand, and not far away came an agent disguised as a waiter. He took 2 memories and ran to the side. Feel free. Sonasaki didn't care. A few minutes later, Nick Fury received a verification message in his headset. A smile suddenly appeared on his black face. How can you? Ruona said, if the museum can't find a suitable candidate, it won't let me take out these 2 Gaia memories. Of course. However, this box of Gaia memories must also be left. Nick Fury looked at the box to imitate the memory. Yuan Ruotsai bit his teeth, the words reached his mouth, and he swallowed them back. No problem. She took a deep breath, seemed to calm her anger, and nodded. Release someone. Nick Fury also did not drag the mud and water, and gave the order. Teen never doesn't have Gaia memories, and doesn't do much for him. If you are locked up in prison, you will be in a bad museum, and releasing them will be a must. Episode 80, Betty and Banner. Hear Nick Fury's command. Soon, Coulson and a few agents arrived in front of Wakana with Never/squad members. Several people seemed to feel a little embarrassed and did not dare to look at Yuan Li and Ruotsai. Yo, isn't this my dear sister? How did it become so embarrassing? Even the memory was snatched away by people. But Yuan Li and Ruona looked directly at Yuan Li and Yazi in the crowd, and the yin and yang became strange. Several S.H.I.E.L.D. people's eyebrows moved slightly, but they didn't expect that these 2 people still had such a relationship. Yuan Lian Tooth was so angry that his teeth itched, and he was about to say something, but was interrupted by Yuan Li and Ruona. Don't be embarrassed outside. Yuan Li and Ruona snorted coldly, then looked at Nick Fury and squeezed out a smile. Then S.H.I.E.L.D. guys, I'll take our people away. Good ride. Nick Fury waved at them. Seeing a few people walking away, he immediately called Coulson. Keep an eye on them until they leave America. Coulson nodded and immediately arranged the task. San Francisco. A villa full of flowers. A blonde girl is gently watering the flowers in front of her. Woof. Suddenly, the hounds at the door began to bark, as if sensing some danger. Groovy, is anyone coming? The girl walked out of the house, comforted the hound, and watched her surroundings warily. Come out. I see you. The girl's pupils shrank, and she saw a figure hidden behind a tree not far away, and immediately shouted, I'm going to call the police. Wait. Betty, it's me. A figure walked out from behind a tree. Banner looked at the girl in front of him and spread his hands helplessly. It's me, Banner. Betty's eyes instantly turned red, and she immediately threw herself into Banner's arms. The hounds no longer barked, but quietly waited for a grind. Where have you been these days? Inside, Betty sobbed in Banner's arms and stroked his face. Hey, you're fat. She immediately stopped crying and looked at Banner, who was much white, and life didn't seem to be as miserable as she thought. Yes, last time I became a monster, after being defeated by the Emperor Insect Man, that is, Yen Tianxin, he hid me, and while Tianxin intelligence helped him develop some new gadgets, he was also studying my body and preparing to help me separate the Hulk. Banner recounts his experiences over the past few months. Except for not being free, I'm doing well. Tianxin Intelligence's food, accommodation conditions are great, and there are many entertainment activities. I made a lot of friends, Banner said with a smile. Did the Hulk solve it? The Hulk can't be solved. Before Banner could speak, his face instantly turned green, and a childish but rude voice shouted. Then Banner instantly became the same. Obviously, no. Banner laughed wryly. That day, the Heart Intelligence released you. Does it mean that the Hulk can be controlled? The Hulk can't be controlled. Betty and Banner looked at each other, both shaking their heads and smiling wryly. Fortunately, the Hulk is a lot more obedient now, Banner said. Indeed, every time the Hulk disobediently came out and prepared to cause sabotage, he would be beaten by Yen Tianxin, and now he is much more honest. I came out this time, it was chartered by President Yen, and he asked me to come to see you and explain the situation to you, and said that if you want to work in Tianxin Intelligence, he also strongly welcomes it. Banner looked at Betty expectantly. Are you willing to work at Tianxin Intelligence? Go to Tianxin Intelligent to work. Betty's eyes lit up, and then she dimmed. But, you know, my father will not allow me to work at Tianxin Intelligence. Betty bit her lip. General Ross had a conflict with Tianxin Intelligence in the early years, and even the army paid with his life for it. Therefore, General Ross's faction has always been unwilling to see Yen Tianxin. It's okay, your father will understand, Banner said. I won't understand. At this time, a voice came from the doorway. A middle-aged man in a military uniform was already cold at the door somehow. This pair of men and women who are coldly watching you Yinon. Father/General Ross. Betty and Banner were startled in an instant and stood up from the couch. Hang. Bruce Banner, you have caused so much damage in New York City, and now you are already a wanted shadow criminal. Dare to show up in public? General Ross looked at Dr. Banner with a look on his face, and then turned to his daughter and said, and you, Betty, actually dare to harbor a wanted shadow criminal. What are you thinking? Father, you know, those things are not done by Banner. Although Betty was nervous, she immediately refuted it. Hulk, also part of Banner, General Ross sneered. But the Hulk sabotaged and was also forced by you. Shut up. You actually blame your father for a monster. General Ross looked at his daughter angrily. Then I'll tell you, from today onwards, I will accompany Banner to work at Tianxin Intelligence. Betty immediately made a decision, took Banner's hand, and prepared to take him away. Bold. You can't go anywhere today. General Ross looked at his daughter's actions and was furious to the extreme. As soon as the order was given, more than a dozen soldiers armed with live ammunition immediately walked out. Looking at the black muzzle, Betty and Banner's figures were startled. Don't force me, General Ross. Banner sensed the Hulk's anger, and he looked at General Ross with a wary look in his eyes. You monster, you dare to look at me with such eyes. Take them down. General Ross gave the order. Yo, General Ross, you are such a great official. Just as the soldiers were about to start, a negative voice entered everyone's ears. General Ross looked in surprise, and I don't know when, a sports car full of science and technology stopped not far away. A noble figure came down from the car. Boss. When Banner saw the comer, his eyes lit up, and a smile instantly appeared on his face. Come on, it is Yen Tianxin. If you don't say a word, you want to catch my Tianxin Intelligent employee, which seems a little unreasonable. Yen Tianxin slowly came to General Ross. He was half a head taller than General Ross, and his figure was also a lap stronger. Especially the temperament of the superior who seems to be born with it, and it completely suppresses General Ross. The majesty of General Ross suddenly weakened. The soldiers were also carrying guns and did not know what to do. Yen. Sky. Heart. General Ross took a deep breath and his eyes darkened. Episode 81. General Ross anger. What's wrong, Rose? Surprised to see me coming? Yen Tianxin would not be polite to him. As soon as he launched Shimakia, General Ross forcibly sent troops to break into his R&D base on the grounds that the soldiers were missing. If he hadn't underestimated Shimakia's strength, I'm afraid he would have really succeeded. In that conflict, Yen Tianxin lost hundreds of security-type Shimagia, while General Ross lost more than 100 troops. If it weren't for the big leadership of the US military to control the situation, there would definitely be a war between Tianxin Intelligence and General Ross. Fortunately, on the US mainland, the military does not speak very strongly. After using money to get through a few counselors, Yen Tianxin finally won this conflict. However, the hatred between the two is estimated to be impossible to eliminate. General Ross was full of Anzer arrogance and had a sense of superiority towards other races. And Yen Tianxin is of Chinese descent. The interests of the two are full of conflict. Yen Tianxin, you are hiding a wanted shadow criminal. What else do you have to say? General Ross looked at Yen Tianxin and pointed at Dr. Banner, Bruce Banner, he is a first-class wanted shadow criminal. When you recruit him as an employee, do you want to work against the United States? Please see if the current Banner is a wanted shadow criminal. Yan Tianxin smiled disdainfully. No, do you think that if you decide on the name of a wanted shadow criminal, you can really convict others? General Ross's face changed, took out his mobile phone, and made a call. Damn it. Hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, General Ross angrily smashed the phone to the ground. You used money to get rid of Bruce Banner's wanted shadow criminal. You are ignoring the law. He pointed at Yan Tianxin and shouted angrily. Who is ignoring the law? You don't know, right? Yan Tianxin sneered. The day before yesterday, General Antar also chatted with me and wanted to order a batch of Zyamasia for war. I said, that's not going to work. In the American army, there are ring people. If I take my Shimagia and bully the commoners, wouldn't it ruin the reputation of my Tianxin intelligence? He asked me, how can there be bad people in the US military? The US military is a police officer who defends the world. I said, you General Ross, it's not a good thing. You. Cold sweat suddenly dripped from General Ross's forehead. General Antar, a general, was the leader he led. In a word, you can demote him. Don't worry. General Antal still didn't ask me to customize Shimargia for you in the end. Yan Tianxin patted him on the shoulder. You're in me. General Antar is not responsible for ordering work. General Ross looked at him viciously. Of course I'm lying to you. You won't believe it, will you? That's a pity. It seems that the horns of your brains are not suitable for this general. Yen Tian mentally said of course to see. Do it. General Ross stopped arguing with him and directly ordered his soldiers to capture Dr. Banner and Betty. Who dares? Yen Tianxin snorted coldly. Arrest a civilian for no reason. Do you believe it or not? I can immediately let you go to a military court? The soldiers immediately stopped their movements. You look at me, I look at you, no one dares to step forward. Unlike General Ross, there is a big faction behind him. A big-headed soldier like them, provoking a monopoly giant like Yen Tianxin, can lose their lives in minutes. They are not stupid. The sins of General Ross, why should they bear the consequences? You guys. General Ross was about to be blown up. But there was nothing he could do about Yen Tianxin. He suppressed his anger and looked at Yen Tianxin. What do you want? What do I want? You first ask what you want. I'm here to pick up my 2 employees back to the office building. You bring someone to stop it. Do you want to do 10? Yen Tianxin gently threw General Ross's arm. Boy, look, your military emblem is crooked. But I've put it right for you. I'll have to put it right in the future. Yen Tianxin laughed and came to Banner and Betty. Miss Betty, you are so beautiful, no wonder Banner misses you. He held out a hand. Betty immediately shook his hand excitedly. After all, not everyone can see such a legend. Banner should have told you everything, right? So, what's your plan? Yen Tianxin asked. Betty looked complicated, glanced at her father, who was angry, and finally nodded firmly. General Ross closed his eyes and 2 tears welled up. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go. Yen Tianxin snapped his fingers. Bring everything you want to bring. Forget about living items, Tianxin intelligence has everything. Of course, the dog he wants to go together. Yen Tianxin looked at the hounds hiding on the side and lifted them up. Regardless of whether it was willing or not, he walked to his convoy with a few people. Looking at Yen Tianxin and his daughter who had gone away, General Ross's eyes were full of sadness and anger. He stabilized his mood, walked to the car and take out the walkie-talkie. Yes, it's me, Rose. Vronsky, how did you think about it? This experiment is not something that everyone can do. His tone is full of seduction and evil. Dr. Banner and Betty have successfully gone through the onboarding process. In the office, Yen Tianxin rubbed his eyebrows, and Izzy came to his side and said softly, "Thank you, Izzy." Yen Tianxin held Yizi's small hand, and Yizi was obviously panicked. "Without you, I guess I'll be busy dying day by day." Yen Tianxin expressed his gratitude. "Nope. Doing errands for the president, Izzy is very happy." Izzy had a gentle look in her eyes. "Don't worry. In a few days, I will surprise you." Yen Tianxin smiled and pinched her fleshy little hand. "This feel is really no different from human skin. No wonder so many people use Shimakia as their wives." "Thank you, President." There was an obvious 5.1 look of joy in Izzy's eyes, and as soon as Izzy was redeemed, it didn't take long for it to reach the technological singularity. And now it can be said that it is no different from humans. "How has Natasha been working lately?" Yen Tianxin turned his mouth and asked. "She starts work at 10 o'clock every morning to process company documents. Then leave work at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and after eating, he transforms into Kamen Rider Valkyrie and starts cleaning up the crime guards according to the radar. Until 3 o'clock in the morning. Every Saturday there will be a day off. On Sundays will not come during the day, and will continue to work in the evening." "You didn't give her 2 salaries, did you?" "She also has money in Shield." "Nope. But there is a part of the subsidy." Izzy was a little speechless. "Stop the subsidy. She was inoculated with soldier serum, and work of this intensity could not tire her. Yen Tianxin said. Episode 82. A Day in the Life of Peter Parker. In addition to the Tianxin Intelligent Building and Stark Industrial Building standing in the middle of New York, there is also a building famous for its sense of technology, the Osborne Building. At this time, the Osborne Building is a biological research center. Peter, you are such a genius. I'm not exaggerating at all. A one-armed middle-aged professor looked at the hairy high school student in front of him. His face was full of emotion, and he did not hesitate to praise himself. I was also inspired suddenly. Peter scratched the back of his head, a little embarrassed. This equation you gave me makes up for the last shortcoming of this biological serum. Do you know? This experiment is likely to have succeeded. Professor Connors looked at the disabled rat that had successfully grown limbs in the simulation experimenter and showed an excited expression. After more than 10 years of research on the regenerative biological serum of amputated limbs, today, it finally has results. Next, just do some biological experiments. If the serum is stable enough, then the final human experiment can be carried out. Peter also smiled and nodded. Professor Connors is a scientist he met not long ago, and he is very high level. He learned a lot from him. Sorry, Professor Connors, I have to go back. The two continued to chat for a while. Peter glanced at the time. It was almost time. He also has to accompany Aunt May to go grocery shopping. Let's go, good boy. Professor Connors didn't stop and watched Peter go out with a smile. Peter walked out of the Osborne Building, stretched out. Recently his life has started to get back on track. Mary Jane gradually fell in love with him. The traces of her parents had clues, and Professor Connors' research progressed, and she began to become famous as a superhero. Well, as a superhero, he is still not qualified. Pick up a newspaper on the street. Save or harm. Spider-Man saves a man, but destroys 2 houses. 1 Clarion Daily. Look at this ridiculous little spider, who does not have the strength of the insect man, but wants to do the deeds of the royal insect man, which led to 10 series of disasters. 10 Horn Daily. Stupid Spider-Man killed a family of 5. The media called Clarion Daily didn't know what went crazy, and it was full of negative news about him. He was faintly unconvinced, but in retrospect, he did not do well. Well, I'd better study well, get my own things done first, and then go to Tianjin Intelligence to study. Peter Moore looked at his chin. Hey, Peter. At this time, an excited voice entered Peter's ears. He turned his head and first smiled, then the smile froze on his face. Running towards him in front of him was his best friend in junior high school, Harry Osborne, and Mary Jane. Why did Harry and Jane walk together? Peter's heart was abrupt. Peter, it's been a long time. Harry gave Peter a very hard bear hug, and then introduced. This is my new girlfriend, Mary Jane. Isn't it beautiful? Well, Peter is my classmate. Mary Jane spoke. Yes. That's not just right. Everyone knows each other. Harry smiled happily. Peter and Mary Jane followed him and smiled. You know, 3 days ago, the two dated again, but there was no confirmed relationship. Harry, how did you and Jane meet? In a fancy restaurant, Peter asked tentatively. Jane was working as a model in a media company the day before yesterday, and was harassed, and I happened to meet it. So I ordered 2 Shiomagia to guarantee the ticket limit and beat each other. Jane, in order to express her gratitude, invited me to a meal. Everyone had some drinks, and then we. Harry gave Peter a you-know look. Is it that simple? Peter had tears and did not flick, squeezed out a smile. That's really tortuous. Congratulations. The wine is so bitter. Minors can't drink alcohol, Peter. Mary Jane said immediately. It's okay. This restaurant is open by my family. No one dares to say it. Harry smiled smugly. Mary Jane's expression when she looked at him became more and more moved. By the way, Peter, how are you doing? Are Uncle Ben and Aunt May in good health? Harry asked, eating the steak that Mary Jane had fed. They are so nice. I'm doing okay, Peter replied, watching the sweet movements of the two, and his heart hurt. But on the face, he did not show it and kept smiling. That's good. Harry nodded happily. I recently worked as an assistant to Professor Connors at Osborne Enterprises and wanted to intern at Tianjin Intelligence. That's good. Tianjin Intelligence is much better than Osborne. Shimakia, Kamen writer. Cool. Harry clapped his hands. If I weren't the heir of Osborne's enterprise, I would also work at Tianjin Intelligence. Peter, when you reach Tianjin Intelligence, you must ask me for a Long Yen Tianjin signature. No problem. Peter nodded. Thought about opening some. Harry is his good friend, his family is so rich, and Mary Jane is quite matched. Meal. Peter walked down the street, preparing to go home. My ears moved, but I heard something strange. What's that? He was startled in an instant, looked not far away, and quickly ran towards that side. Run across a street, in a shady alley at 377. Seeing the scene in front of him through the moonlight, Peter instantly breathed. I saw that in the alley, Three tall and strong monsters were eating two humans. The sound of biting and swallowing made Peter's heart panic. Suddenly, the three Amazon creatures seemed to sense the coming, immediately turned around, and looked directly at Peter. "Mr. Monster, I didn't mean to, you guys fly to eat." Peter squeezed out a laugh. But in the next second, the three Amazon creatures put down the corpses in their hands and quickly pounced on him. "What's the matter? There are man-eating monsters in New York," Peter exclaimed, pulled out his legs and ran. Three Amazon creatures chase. "Mr. Monster, you guys are so ugly. It's going to give you nightmares." Peter looked back at the three ugly Amazon creatures and spat. Looking at the Amazon that was about to reach him, he immediately picked up his hand. The machine on his wrist suddenly fired spider silk, carrying him up quickly and avoiding the attack. "Well, maybe it's not a good choice to fight with you." Watching the creature in front of him casually cut a large cut in the wall with one paw, Peter's face became solemn. If this claw grabs him, he will be seriously injured if he does not die. Episode 83, Spider-Man and Locust Man. "You want to sneak up on me? Sorry, but spiders can eat dragons." A dragonfly-like Amazon creature flew up and circled to the side to sneak up on Peter. But Peter used spider sensing to sense it a long time ago. He immediately shot out spider silk and rolled up a piece of sewer manhole cover, and then throw it hard. With the help of gravity from top to bottom, the wolf slapped on the head of the Dragon Court Amazon, who flew to the side to prepare for a sneak attack. Dragon Ting Amazon was hit straight at this time, and green blood suddenly splashed on his head. He also temporarily lost the ability to fly, and his body fell, falling to the ground covered in blood. "Sorry, Mr. Monster. You cannibalize people, I have to solve it." "You guys." "No way." Peter had just made a gloating sound, but the next second his eyes widened. The monster in front of him stood up, and the wounds of those children were actually fried at the speed of the naked eye. This resilience is also too strong. Peter scratched his head, incredulous at the monster's ability to recover. And for the first time, I thought about what would happen if the cells of this creature were added to Professor Connor's serum. As if sensing that the person in front of them was not easy to mess with, the three Amazons looked at each other, as if discussing something, and then ran directly back. "Hold the money, gentlemen monsters, you eat people, I can't let you go." Peter noticed that the other party was just looking bluffing, not as strong as he imagined, so he directly swung the spider silk in the air, chasing the three Amazon creatures. After a while, he found himself in an abandoned factory. It looks like a candy factory, just abandoned. "Where did you go?" Peter closed his eyes, leaned on the spider induction, and slowly went deeper. Rumble. Suddenly, he heard the figure of the door being closed. And in the induction, hundreds of creatures walked out from all over the factory. "Groove, I'm ambushed, woman." Peter was still very immature, and immediately panicked, turned around and wanted to run. The only vent has already been ambushed. More than a dozen stingers are shooting at Peter. Peter dodged in the air, but still hit one. Only after hitting this stinger, he felt weak all over his body and lost the ability to resist. "Oops, I'm going to be eaten." Looking at the Amazon creatures that surrounded him, Peter suddenly felt desperate. "Goodbye, Uncle Ben. Goodbye, Aunt May. Goodbye, Ned. Goodbye, Harry. Goodbye, Mary Jane. Bye." Peter's thoughts were devastated for a moment. Right at this moment, shout! A yellow streamer descended from the sky, broke through the factory ceiling, and flashed dazzling past these Amazon creatures. After a few seconds, the figure stopped. The Amazon creatures also froze. Then they began to explode, turning into puddles of black water and seeping into the soil. "The Emperor. Bugman. No, it's Mr. Yen Tianxin. You successfully influenced Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and obtained 200 special impact factors." Peter's face suddenly changed from gray despair to rosy hope. A teenager was injured in an abandoned factory south of Hell's Kitchen. Yen Tianxin contacted the airship and immediately looked at Peter on the ground. Although he understood the other party's information clearly, he still asked, "Who are you? Why come here alone so late?" Before Peter could answer, a beam of light came from his helmet, sweeping Peter from top to bottom, and then all his information came out. Peter Parker, 17, lives at 19, Forest Hills, Queens, New York. Father, mother information is unknown, began to live with Uncle Ben Scarf Parker, Aunt May Parker at the age of 4. Now he is a graduating student from Midtown High School in New York, with excellent grades. Friends are Nedlets, Harry Osborn. The crush is her classmate Mary Jane, but her best friend Haheli Yi Osborne Marie Jane walked on her own. Looks innocent, still a good student. What are you doing in such a remote place? Yen Tianxin immediately asked seriously. That, Mr. Yen. I'm a big fan of yours. I don't know, have you ever heard of Spider-Man? That's me, Peter said weakly. Facing the idol, he was excited and terrified. I was afraid of causing a bad impression on Yen Tianxin. Spider-Man? Yen Tianxin was silent for a while, as if he was reading information. Understood, I thank you for your dedication to the city. But you are still a high school student, please focus on your studies. Yan Tianxin patted him on the shoulder. Okay, Peter nodded sharply. Soon, he was sent to the airship by Yan Tianxin for treatment. Although he was poisoned, with his mutated physical fitness, the toxin was quickly decomposed in his body. Accompany your uncles and aunts well, don't do dangerous things, do you hear? After checking, Peter was sent off the airship. Looking at Yan Tianxin, who had changed into human form, Peter nodded fiercely, his face full of excitement. The feeling of falling out of love all of a sudden was washed away by the joy of seeing idols. On the airship, Yan Tianxin watched Peter leave. President, you seem to value him? Izzy came to him and asked. Well, in him, I see some possibilities. He will be a very useful pawn for me. Yan Tianxin nodded. Peter Parker, who knows Spider-Man, seems to have great potential and is worth investing in and cultivating. By the way, President, there is someone waiting for you, Izzy said suddenly. I know. So go to him. Yan Tianxin nodded. He pressed his temple impatiently, and Izzy immediately came over and pressed him. In this way, he returned to the Tianxin Intelligent Building. Mr. Yan, we have to talk. As soon as Yan Tianxin walked to the office, he saw a black bittern egg waiting for him. Nick Fury. That's your name. Yan Tianxin waved his hand and let the Xiao Magia guarantee ticket in the state of alarm disperse. He came to Nick Fury and chuckled. You SHIELD are really working hard, it's so late, the deputy director of the hall, still come to me to do things. Laughing. What is this fatigue for the safety of the whole world? Nick Fury squeezed out a smile as well. Come, please over here. Yan Tianxin ushered him into the office. Yan Tianxin snapped his fingers, and a dignified and elegant Xiaumagia immediately carried the teapot and poured tea for the two. Thank you. Nick Fury nodded gently. So you're looking for me, what's the matter? Yan Tianxin blew down the hot breath and looked at him. Episode 84. Nick Fury visits. I think you should know what SHIELD does. Nick Fury organized the language a little. We have only one purpose, and that is to defend against superpowers and alien attacks and ensure the safety of the world. And you see, these months, first Utopia, then museums, and what bullshit the Chosen Alliance, and the monsters researched by the Life Foundation. This world, due to the existence of some careerists, has become very dangerous. Fortunately, there are also superheroes like you, who strive to maintain peace in the world. Well, I did do a lot of tribute offerings to New York. Yan Tianxin nodded. So, superheroes do a good job and bring some justice to the world. But don't you realize that superheroes are under increasing pressure when facing more and more criminals? Nick Fury continued. Nope. I'm under a lot of pressure. Yan Tianxin smiled and said, thanks to your agent Natasha's help, I'm getting more and more comfortable now. I used to go out every night, but now I can just go out once in a while. Natasha got everything in order. By the way, do you use the price to jump the horse? I can offer a high price to let Natasha completely enter the 343 Tianxin intelligence. Hug, the agents of SHIELD will not leak out. Nick Fury stretched out a black hand and stopped Yan Tianxin's output. So, let's get straight to your purpose. Yan Tianxin looked at Nick Fury. Then I'll say it straight. SHIELD is where superheroes belong. Nick Fury's face became serious. Only a powerful organization, an official organization, can lead superheroes to defeat evil and save the world. And SHIELD is such an organization. You mean, you want me to join SHIELD? Yan Tianxin raised his eyebrows. Yes. We cordially invite you to be a secret agent of SHIELD. Enjoy the highest authority and the highest treatment. Although, this treatment is nothing to you, Nick Fury said. After looking at the information taken out from Yan Hongyin's underground fortress, he had a huge sense of crisis. If the content on the data is true, then what awaits SHIELD will be one bloody battle after another. With the current strength of SHIELD, it is definitely not an opponent of those things. Only by absorbing countless talents can we defeat each other. Hugshu, I'm not interested. Yan Tianxin shook his head. Nick Fury was not disappointed in his attitude, and still persuaded. Mr. Yan, I know what you are thinking. I have a top secret information here, which records some things, and after you read it, you will definitely change your view of the world. Look. Yan Tianxin nodded. Nick Fury pressed the computer's wrist, and a 3D projection popped out. Yo, it's something I produce. Yan Tianxin's eyelids lifted. That's right, Tianxin Intelligent Products, we can trust. Nick Fury squeezed out a smile and projected the data. Here's some of the monster information we'll be facing. Be prepared. Nick Fury began to turn the page. These monsters, I think you know. Doped creatures that humans turn into using Gaia's memory. High-level Gaia memories have always been in the hands of the museum. But recently these things have also exposed that there is already corruption inside the museum, and there are many traitors. Museums can no longer be completely believed, they are half enemies of ours. I don't consider them friends in my heart. Yen Tianxin nodded. Next, Orphenok. This is the main opponent of the museum. I heard that it is a form of human evolution. There are two types. One is a native species that automatically awakens after natural death or death due to a disaster. One is a regenerative species that is transformed after being killed by Orpheus. The strength of the native species is very strong, and it can be comparable to high-grade doped bodies. Moreover, the Orpheno clan has a legend of a king. I heard that as long as the king of Orpheno is resurrected, all humans in this world will be transformed into Orpheno Enoch. Isn't that a good thing? Orpheno is so strong, transform it. Yen Tianxin's eyes lit up. Mr. Yen, you may not know. The transformation of humans into Orpheus Enoch has a chance of success. Most people die in conversion. This is not a good thing. Nick Fury's face was solemn, looking at Yen Tianxin. Okay. I understand. It's better not to convert. Yen Tianxin hurriedly straightened up. The third type of monster is called the undead. I heard that it is a creature given power by God. There are 53 in total. Each one cannot be killed, only sealed. And the strength is extremely strong. High-level undead creatures have human intelligence. It will be difficult to deal with. There are some others, such as Lust, Phantom. These are the henchmen of mankind. We must concentrate our forces against them. Nick Fury looked at Yen Tianxin, and his cynical expression was now full of solemnity. Obviously, he was moved by Nick Fury's words. What do you do now? Yen Tianxin looked at Nick Fury. We are now very lacking in strength. Research and development of new weapons and lack of funds, and recruitment of superpowers is not enough. Now the only thing that can directly enhance the strength is a kind of Gaia memory. Nick Fury looking directly at Yen Tianxin with his eyes. Oh. You're taking a fancy to the Gaia memory in my hand. Yen Tianxin suddenly realized. Yes. Nick Fury did not deny. Mr. Yen, you should also have a comparison. With the power of Kamen Rider alone, it is impossible to fight against so many monster mouth forces. But if you give Gaia's memory to S.H.I.E.L.D. to study, and let S.H.I.E.L.D. use its power, then we are sure to stop these monsters and forces. Nick Fury's face was sincere. I hope, Mr. Yen, for the sake of world peace and your own safety, you will give your memory to S.H.I.E.L.D. What if I don't? Yen Tianxin raised his eyebrows. Nick Fury was instantly speechless. He couldn't say grab it. And S.H.I.E.L.D. was also not sure of snatching things from Yen Tianxin. Forget it, tell you the truth. Yen Tianxin looked at Nick Fury, whose face was not very good looking, and suddenly smiled. This Gaia memory, I have roughly figured out what is going on. It is impossible to give it to you. You figured it out? Nick Fury frowned, and his one-eyed eye revealed incredulity. Episode 85. Kamen Rider Joker. Of course. With my Yen Tianxin's talent, is there anything else in this world that I can't understand? Yen Tianxin looked at the suspicious Nick Fury and chuckled. Come with me. Yen Tianxin deliberately wanted to reveal something to Nick Fury. He took Nick Fury to the 18th basement floor. Nick Fury was immediately impressed by the sight of this secret research base and contributed 100 special impact factors. Take Nick Fury straight into a high-tech lab. Izzy, open the file for me. Yen Tianxin said to Yitzi. The little secretary got the order. Immediately click on the computer on the side. The entire laboratory instantly darkened, and then a lamp appeared overhead and began 3D projection. A piece of Gaia memory appeared in front of the two in a projected manner. As you can see, these are the Gaia memories in my hands. Cyclone, Joker, Luna, Heat, Metal, Trigger. Yen Tianxin introduced. There is also a museum that trades with me for the Forbidden Memory and the Fong Memory of the Nazca Memory. Every Gaia memory contains a unique and special power. This power was sealed in memory by someone with a special program. Just like programming, energy is edited by people according to certain rules. As long as it is entered into the host, it can be used. And the human body acts as this host. Yen Tianxin snapped his fingers. With Izzy's small hand, the projection in front of him immediately began to change. A virtual figure appeared next to Gaia's memory. With the operation of Yen Tianxin, pick up a memory and insert it into the body of the virtual figure. As long as an interface is made on the human body, the memory can be integrated into the human body, and the energy inside begins to transform the cells of the human body according to the program, making people into all kinds of monsters. I call this a running program. Yen Tianxin pointed to the human body that immediately changed in front of him. Each different Gaia memory is a different program, running in the human body. The results of the reaction are naturally different. You see him, I just used the Luna memory, so he became like this. Well, it's kind of like a banana peel. I can't understand. I don't know how the production staff did it. The virtual human body in front of him suddenly expanded and distorted, and finally turned into a dark yellow figure with black spikes. With the wanton operation of Yen Tianxin's hands, his body was also arbitrarily stretched and pinched. The ability of Luna's memory is to make people stretch at will, stretch freely, and create doppelgangers like rubber. kind of like Luffy. So the Never Squad at that time used the Luna doping to limit the opponent's actions. And this metal memory, if fused into it, the doped body will become steelen. And this steel is not simple. I measured its hardness. According to the tests, it can actually resist intercontinental missiles hard. It's amazing that an ordinary person can hard resist ICBMs. Yen Tianxin introduced the doped bodies one by one, and Nick Fury was moved to see it. However, I found that if you use these Gaia memories directly through the interface, after the transformation is removed, it will cause irreversible damage to the human body. Yen Tianxin withdrew the Gaia memory from the virtual human body. Not long after it was withdrawn, the virtual human body began to twitch all over, and its body festered in many places, and ran around like crazy. Gaia memory can seriously affect the human psyche and cause permanent damage to the human cerebral cortex. It makes people crazy, full of violence, and then gets out of control and attacks other people. The dopants transformed into virtual human beings attack everything around them. So, the museum invented the Earth Drive to drive Gaia's memory. I think it is this kind of drive that allows humans to avoid being eroded by the power of Gaia's memory and to use the power of memory at will. Yen Tianxin touched his chin. What is the principle of the drive? Nick Fury asked quickly. Good question. I just dismantled a drive. The principle of it was studied, really researched. Nick Fury almost vomited out a mouthful of old blood. The 2 Earth drives given to him by Wakana Sanasaki are also studied by many scientists in S.H.I.E.L.D. But now there is no clue. Unexpectedly, Yen Tianxin in front of him had already studied it. Is there such a big gap between people? Yes, what's so great about that? Yen Tian said disapprovingly. His finger probed forward, the projection changed again, and an Earth drive belt appeared in front of Nick Fury. In the end, I found out that the drive can not only perfectly drive the power of Gaia's memory, but also block the harassment of negative emotions in Gaia's memory. Yen Tianxin snapped his fingers. It's like a driver software, which can not only speed up the running program, but also disinfect the virus. It's so easy to use, but I found another problem, running Gaia memory with the original drive, although it is very useful, but the human body will still become a monster, which is ugly. Nick Fury took a deep breath. In front of this power, you actually think he is ugly? And then what? He held back the desire to curse and asked. So, I decided to improve it. To improve this drive, I incorporated it directly into my Kamen Rider system. That's it. A genius product was born. An invincible arrogant smile appeared on Yen Tian's face. This is Kamen Rider Lost Drive. A projection appears, like a broken wing, the whole red body, dotted with some gold and silver metal base or screw drive, appeared in front of Nick Fury's eyes, full of technology and metal. It can also drive the power of memory? Nick Fury's eyes narrowed. Of course. Not only that, but you can also use the energy of Gaia's memory to turn people into Kamen Riders. Yen Tianxin immediately took action, dragged the Joker memory into the lost drive and install it in the vanity. Anthropomorphic waist. A long metal belt binds the human body's waist. Press down on the memory and then pull the drive. Pieces of black fragments quickly gathered towards the human body, forming a set of black armor on the surface of his body. The armored head is shaped like some kind of insect, with large eyes, shining red light, and a pair of W-shaped horns on the top of the forehead, which has a special sense of handsomeness. The armor of the body looks very strong and heavy, and on the breastplate, wrists and ankles, there are purple enchanting patterns. As soon as you look at the appearance of this set of armor, the strength will not be much worse. Kamen Rider Joker. My proud work. Yen Tian nodded with satisfaction, and Nick Fury looked at this set of armor and also showed a stunning face. It's really beautiful, handsome and technological, and have considerable strength. If only this were S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury thought. But obviously, Yen Tianxin just wanted him to see the good things, and did not plan to use them for him. Who are you going to use this armor for? Nick Fury looked at him. It is impossible for anyone to use it for you S.H.I.E.L.D. people. Yen Tianxin glanced at him. However, you did remind me that relying on me alone, facing so many strong enemies, is indeed invincible. So, I just came to inspiration. One thing was decided. Yen Tianxin looked at Nick Fury. His face was very ugly. I have decided to establish a team composed mainly of Kamen Riders, the Kamen Rider Council. How? Does the name sound good? Kamen Rider Council. Do you want to form a team by yourself to deal with these monsters? Nick Fury was a little anxious, but he didn't expect Yen Tianxin to do this. Of course. Can't you? With my financial resources, there is no problem at all in building such a team. The annual budget is 2 or 3 tens of billions, which is almost enough. It's really not possible. Find Tony Stark to join in and let him come out a little too. I see, okay. Yen Tianxin nodded. The more he thought about it, the more he could. However, after all, you are an unofficial organization, and there will be obstacles to action. Nick Fury retorted. Then just go to the United Nations and register. Yen Tianxin looked at him with disdain. Compared to S.H.I.E.L.D., which you need tens of billions of dollars a year, but can't do anything serious, Kamen Rider Council doesn't need a penny from the United Nations, and its strength is strong. Guess who the United Nations will choose? Nick Fury was silent. He did not speak for a long time. That's not what I expected. How can any capitalist give up tens of billions a year to do thankless things? Well, I've introduced so many things to you and talked to you for so long. I've got enough to give you face. Izzy, see you off. Yan Tianqin issued an eviction order. Izzy immediately took Nick Fury to the elevator and made a gesture of invitation obediently. Nick Fury took one last look at Yan Tianqin and saw that he was immersed in the study of Gaia's memory. He sighed and followed Izzy upstairs. How's it going, boss? At the door of the office, Natasha had been waiting for a long time. He refused. Nick Fury said, "It didn't exceed my expectations." Natasha wasn't surprised at all and nodded flatly. Natasha, what kind of person do you think Yan Tianqin is? Nick Fury asked suddenly. What kind of person is he? Natasha thought carefully. Genius. Other than that? Very visionary, good business acumen, and high intelligence. I mean character. In terms of personality, I am actually very afraid of socializing, brave and righteous, but very proud, and my eyes are above the top like Tony Stark. However, Tony Stark is more conceited, while Yan Tianqin is proud. Is it really appropriate for you to discuss me on my turf? The two were chatting, when suddenly the camera on the side turned around, and Yan Tian's dissatisfied voice was heard inside. Ahem. I'm sorry. Natasha and Nick Fury immediately went downstairs to a nearby coffee shop. Since your plan failed, what do we do next? Natasha asked. Who told you that our plan failed? The corner of Nick Fury's mouth hooked up a smile. No matter what, in the end it is the victory of S.H.I.E.L.D. His one eye flashed with a strange brilliance. I declare that Stark Weapons Manufacturing and R&D will be shut down forever. This morning, at Stark Industries press conference, a wave was made. The world's largest arms manufacturer, Stark Industries. He actually wants to stop his weapons department. It's as shocking as Apple announcing the discontinuation of mobile phones, Walmart closing supermarkets, and Tianjin Smart no longer selling Xiaomagia. Mr. Stark, may I ask you, what is the specific reason for closing the weapons department? Is it related to your experience in the Middle East? Mr. Stark, is it your decision to shut down the weapons department, or is it a unanimous decision of all Stark shareholders? Mr. Stark, thank you for your contribution to peace. But if you close the weapons department, what new business will you start in the future? Mr. Stark, sorry, no comment. No comment. Tony walked in the group of reporters without panic, drinking drinks, and looking at the low-cut clothes of several good-looking female reporters. By the way, Hani followed him with a group of Shimakia bodyguards, intercepting reporters. Back in the mansion, Tony, you tell you what you think. The weapons department is the highlight of Stark Industries, but you want it to end from now on? As soon as he entered the office, a middle-aged man with a gray beard and no hair walked in angrily. Uncle Obadiah, come, please sit and drink. Don't rush. Tony immediately ordered the maid Shimakia on the side. Go away. Obadiah single-handedly drove away the two Shimagia maids. Angrily, he came to Tony and looked him straight in the eye. Stark Industries is the brainchild of your father and me. You can't just ruin him like that. I didn't ruin it. I'm giving it a second birth. Tony spread his hands. Rebirth, just like Tianjin Intelligence. We don't sell weapons, we sell something that is good for the people. Yan Tianqin is a pen, what do you learn from him? Obadiah said, the weapons department can't be closed. Shut down, Stark Industries is. Uncle Obadiah, don't be in a hurry. Don't worry, I won't let Stark workers go out of business. It will always be a jewel in the world. Tony squeezed out a smile and stood up, afraid to hit Obadiah on the shoulder. You go back to rest people first. Episode 86. Kamen Rider 1. Damn it, damn it. Damn the Ten Rings gang. Damn Stark. In his office, Obadiah slammed the desk angrily. The plan to kill Stark was set by him, but I did not expect that the 10 Precepts gang violated the treaty and took money and did nothing. Led Tony out of the Middle East alive. Now that the people of the 10 Precepts gang are almost dead, it is useless for him to reason with them. Tony, don't blame me. This building should have been called Stanny. Obadiah suppressed the anger in his heart. He closed the doors and windows and walked into the hidden secret room. A huge set of iron armor, which was being welded by several Shimagia. He went to the Middle East to clean up the site and found the armor. According to the survivors of the 10 Commandments gang, a monster attacked the 10 Rings camp, and Tony Stark looked through the armor belt to see the other two rush out. So he collected this set of armor, extinguished the survivors of the 10 Commandments gang, brought it back, and studied and reorganized. Mr. Stanny, I'm sorry, we have never been able to provide it with stable energy. As soon as Obadiah arrived, he heard unfortunate news from several scientists. After all, not everyone has the smart brain of Tony and can knock out an arc reactor in the desert. And without a stable source of energy, this set of armor named Obadiah Iron Overlord became a decoration. Connect it with 2 thick cables to power it when it is impossible to fight. A bunch of trash, Obadiah scolded. He looked at the Iron Overlord in front of him who had taken shape and lacked only stable energy drive. His face became gloomy, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Looks like you need a little help. When he was distressed, he heard a magnetic voice in his ear. Who is it? Obadiah and several scientists immediately turned their heads in panic. I saw a noble figure full of mystery and power, and I don't know when, appeared on the sofa on the side. He was half lying on the couch, playing with weapon parts belonging to the Iron Overlord. Utopia. Several people gasped in unison, and they should recognize the person immediately. Obadiah panicked. He considers himself a badass, but compared to a utopia that does no evil, that's far from it. Why, I'm not welcome. Utopia squinted. Obadiah and several people suddenly did not dare to come out. I don't know. What are your instructions for visiting the cold house? Obadiah asked tentatively. Obadiah, congratulations. You were chosen by me. Utopia stood up and made the Obadiah people back in fright. I was chosen. Obadiah pointed to himself. That's right. I need to set up a base in New York, which requires a lot of money. And Stark Industries is my first choice. I will help you successfully take the helm of Stark Industries, and you just need to help me complete the construction of the base. Utopia said. It's an honor. Obadiah was immediately ecstatic. He is worried about how to take Stark Industries, and the help of Utopia comes. Good. You are a very acquaintance, more than Kim. Utopia laughed and casually threw out a box. Inside this box, there is a high-level Gaia memory and 100 experimental memories. How to use it, it's up to you. Thank you, sir, thank you. Obadiah took the wooden box and was expressing his gratitude, only to find that the figure of Utopia had disappeared. You successfully influenced the Iron Overlord Obadiah Steiny and obtained 100 special impact factors. Obadiah excitedly opened the wooden box in front of him, and on the top was a silver memory and an earth drive. And on the lower level, it is neat, 100 black mass-produced Gaia memories. Ha ha ha, with these, I control the tank industry, just around the corner. Obadiah laughed maniacally, then looked to the side and shivered to the side. Whoever dares to speak out about this matter, I will let anyone live or die. Product? Understood, understood. The scientist nodded quickly. Then you guys continue to study the Iron Overlord. This can't be left behind. Obadiah walked out of the research base and couldn't wait to use the power of Gaia's memory. President, this is an item sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. this morning. As soon as he woke up from a sweet dream, Yen Tianxin got news from Izzy. They send me something? It won't be a bomb. Yen Tianxin sneered, and then took the box handed by Izzy. Opening it without the slightest fear, the contents surprised him. Huh, what do they mean by that? Want to curry favor with me? A strange smile appeared on Yen Tianxin's face. In the box, it is the acceleration memory and the trial memory, and 2 earth drives. S.H.I.E.L.D. returned what it gave him back to itself. It's still acquaintance. Yen Tianxin casually threw the 2 memories on the bed. These 2 memories, he was going to arrange an accident for S.H.I.E.L.D., and then let Orphe Enoch snatch it. In the end, he snatched it back from Orfino himself. This not only folded the sharp energy of S.H.I.E.L.D., but also increased its majesty. He also justifiably held the 2 memories in his hands. But I didn't expect that S.H.I.E.L.D. actually sent 2 memories to the door to arrange some of its own ideas, which suddenly became useless. That's fine, save some unnecessary trouble. Yen Tianxin rubbed his neck and got up from the bed. Izzy, send them a message thanking S.H.I.E.L.D. for its contribution to peace. Then send 2 sets of Kamen Rider Abaddon armor and send ordinary specifications. He stood up, brushed his teeth and washed his face. Then habitually opened the system panel. Host, Yen Tianxin. Age, 23. Unlocked Kamen Rider Guide. Kamen Rider 01. Kamen Rider W. Kamen Rider 555. Equipment. Kamen Rider 01 Drive. High Leap Locust Program Sublimation Key. Kamen Rider Lost Drive. Kamen Rider Tendi Transformation Set. Shining Assault Locust Program Sublimation Key, Metal Cluster Locust Program Sublimation Key. Ability, Earth Library. Followers, Izzy, Zaya Satellite, Kamen Rider Destroyer, Tianjinyu, Narumi Shokichi, Sanasaki Tsutoko, Sanasaki Wakana. Common Impact Factor, 647456. Special Impact Factor, 5200. Now that his Special Impact Factor has reached 5002, he can unlock a set of Kamen Rider illustrated books. When you wake up in the morning, you must be full of energy. Pump. Yen Tianxin directly began to unlock randomly. The 5,000 special impact factors disappeared instantly, and Kamen Rider illustrated books flashed in front of him. In the end, a Kamen Rider froze in front of him. Congratulations, successfully unlocked Kamen Rider 1 book. Unlock the illustrated reward, transform human technique, and follow Dr. Death. Is this good luck or bad luck? Yen Tianxin looked at the knight in front of him who was full of power, and he was a little stiff for a while. Look at the goods in Kamen Rider 1. The entire Kamen Rider 1 has only 1 floor, so all the items have been unlocked. Inside it are weird weirdo transformation technology after another. Overhaul card cadres obey. There are also two Kamen riders who are almost identical. Fortunately, according to the description in the illustrated book, these weirdos seem to have lost their original sense of plastic, and they are extremely powerful and terrifying. Kamen Rider is the same. Two Kamen Riders, number 1 and number 2, are not as cheap as in the drama version, and more like the image in the big movie in 2016 on Earth. See illustration. It looks very large, muscular, with a full sense of strength and technology, and the armor on the body, which also has a strong metallic luster. As soon as it looks, it is full of destructive power and combat power. In short, unlocking them is not a loss. If you cultivate the card organization, you can arrange one. Yen Tianxin touched his chin. Time and Space Demon God Machine, Shuka Organization, Kamen Rider 1. Pregnant. Yen Tianxin's eyes lit up. A bold idea appeared in his head. But for now, this plan still has to be slowed down, and it will be enough to unlock another Kamen Rider book. This is not the place you should come. If you stay here and don't leave, I will call the police. An angry security guard, armed with a baton, looked at the young man in front of him who looked like a beggar. Okay, I'll go, Danny Rand said helplessly, but this is my home. He walked out of the villa area and onto the street. Looking at the glorious city in front of him, he had mixed feelings in his heart. At the age of 9, he and his parents took a private jet to travel to China. The plane had an accident due to an accident. In a blizzard, the plane fell on a snowy mountain. Both parents lost their lives to protect him. He could only escape alone, and he was about to die on the snowy mountain, but in despair, he met a Chinese dressed as a warrior. The warrior rescued him and took him to a very mysterious place. He quickly understood that this was his parents' destination, the legendary holy place Kunlun. Danny grew up in Kunlun and practiced martial arts with his partner. He learned from Lei Gong, Elder Shou, and others the use of martial arts in Qi. Moreover, he inherited the power of the 10 iron fists of Kunlun's mysterious Qi. After inheriting the power of the Iron Fist, it didn't take long. Kunlun asked him to return to New York, hoping that he would stop a huge conspiracy. Danny returns with an endless sense of mission. But when he returned to New York, he found that his company no longer belonged to him. Even your own home is no longer your own. My childhood intimate playmate actually became hostile to himself. Sent killers to kill themselves. This huge change made Danny feel at a loss for a while. Bored wandering around the corner of the city, soon, it was late at night. Danny reached into his pocket and had $12 to find a cheap hotel for one night. Just in the process of finding a hotel, Danny's ears moved, his sense of hearing was sensitive, and he heard something. He immediately ran over and saw the street not far away. There is a group of people dressed as ninjas, chasing a middle-aged man in a suit, hand together. As soon as Danny looked at it, he immediately recognized the identity of the ninja in front of him, which was a hand union composed of 5 Kunlun traders. It is also the target of his coming to New York to stop. It's really a bunch of bad guys. Looking at what the hand union would do, Danny snorted coldly. Since the other party wants to hunt down and kill the middle-aged man, then he wants to save the middle-aged man. Danny ran towards the hand meeting. Fark. I have said that I have withdrawn from the alliance of the Chosen One. Why are you still chasing me? The escaped middle 3.8-year-old man looked at the ninja who was closely followed behind him and couldn't help but scold. Hand over your Gaia memory, the leading ninja said coldly. Without the deterrence of Kim and the members of Never, the Hand Association also started the idea of Gaia memory. After all, good stuff, who doesn't want it? Dream on. The middle-aged man is not a fool. Give Gaia memory to the other party, and the other party will definitely not show mercy to himself. He didn't think that the always ruthless Hand Association would let him go. Then there is no way. We can only kill you and get the Gaia memory in our hands. Hand Union will chase relentlessly. Darts and pistols come out together. The middle-aged man held Gaia's memory in his hand, and he could not make up his mind to transform. He could feel that he had a big side effect after using Gaia memory. If you continue to use it, you are likely to go completely crazy. Die. A ninja had already caught up with the man, slashing his katana at his head. Get out of the way. The middle-aged man held his head in a panic, and was about to insert Gaia's memory into his body when an angry voice suddenly came from his ears. When he looked back, he found that the ninja in front of him had been punched and flew out. Thank you, young man. The middle-aged man looked at Danny in surprise. No thanks. There you go. Danny didn't have time to pay attention to him, but looked coldly at the ninjas of the Hand Alliance. He clenched his fists, and the power of the Iron Fist was poured into his fists. Episode 87. Kunlun and the Museum. What are you? I actually dare to take care of the affairs of the Hand-to-Hand Association. What a guts! The leading ninja immediately pointed a knife at Danny and scolded. Now that Kim is nowhere to be found, the biggest force in Hell's Kitchen is the Hand Guild. Therefore, the members of the Hand Union are also acting more and more arrogantly. Humph! Your hands will do all evil, and I want everyone to get it. Danny doesn't casually reveal his identity. He said indignantly, gather the power of the iron fist on your fist and be ready to fight several people at any time. Good. Then it can only kill you. When the leading ninja heard him insulting the hand Kai, his eyes immediately turned cold. He raised his katana and immediately slashed at him. The rest of the ninjas also followed, one by one. Danny and the ninjas instantly fought. He dodged the ninjas' sharp knives and dark weapons while returning fire appropriately. But in any case, he somewhat overestimated his strength and underestimated the level of ninjas. Soon, he fell into the downwind because he consumed too much power of the iron fist. Something bad. Danny was a little anxious and felt a lot of pressure for his combat training, all with his master or junior siblings. Everyone may fight fiercely, but everyone still hides a little poisonous hand and is less ruthless. And in the face of the ruthless ninjas in front of him, Danny's rhythm was a little chaotic for a while. Shoo! Suddenly, Danny felt a pain in his back and screamed in pain. Apparently he was cut through his back by a ninja's knife and injured. Damn! Seeing that Danny is about to be killed by the hand ninja for saving himself, the middle-aged man on the side gritted his teeth and looked at the Gaia memory in his hand. This is the source of his happiness and the source of his misfortune. Because of this, 02 he gained a lot of wealth. Because of this, he lost his wife and daughter. Die and die. I'm a waste anyway. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and inserted the Gaia memory in his hand into his chest. Beast/beast. In Danny's shocked gaze, the middle-aged man successfully transformed into a beast doped. You successfully influenced Tekken Danny Rand and obtained 100 special impact factors. This. What is this? Danny stuttered a little. This was the first time he had seen an adulterant. You don't even know doped? Which country place is from? The beast-doped body spat out and said, you retreat, I will solve them. The beast-doped body rushed towards the ninjas. His actions are very violent, jumping into the ninja group and breaking the ninjas' swords in a single move. Neither the sword nor the dark weapon could damage his hard-doped skin. The gap between doped bodies and ordinary humans is really too big. Not good, retreat. The ninjas immediately prepared to escape. But suddenly, a burst of gunfire rang out. Da-da-da. In the alley, there was a burst of blue fire. Countless blood holes appeared on the ninjas' bodies, and they suddenly fell into a pool of blood. What man? Danny and the beast doping immediately looked out into the alley. I saw an indifferent man with a huge skull on his chest walk out. Punisher. The beast doping immediately recognized the person in front of him. What do you want to do? I've changed my mind now. The beast doped was a little flustered. Oh. But the young man you killed, can he be resurrected? The Punisher smiled disdainfully. I didn't want to kill him. I just want to grab his money. But that was the first time I used the power of doped, and I didn't know my power was so great. I clearly just wanted to push him away. The tone of the beast doping became weaker and weaker. But you killed him after all. You know? He was just an ordinary college student, a single-parent family, and he was snatched and killed by you as soon as he got his scholarship that day. His mother still washes her face with tears every day. The Punisher said indifferently, I'm sorry. The beast-doped body changed back into human form and sat weakly on the ground. You kill me. Exactly. The Punisher immediately raised his gun and was about to open fire. Shout. A shot of stone was immediately still in his chest. Danny poured the power of the iron fist into the stone, so the potential energy is great. The Punisher received this blow and immediately stomped backward several steps. He's changed. Why didn't you let him go yet? Danny looked at the Punisher angrily. Reform and repentance are useless. Death is the point of sinners. Frank steadied himself and looked at Danny in front of him. If you are guilty, you have to die. If you are guilty, you must die. Frank said coldly, I'm sorry, I won't let you kill him. Danny shook his head. Then I'll even kill you too. Frank raised his gun. Try. Danny's unyielding character also came up. He fought directly with Frank in close combat. Knocking out Frank's assault rifle with one punch, Danny and Frank engage in hand-to-hand combat. Frank is strong in martial arts skills. Danny is strong in physical fitness. The two fought fiercely, for a time, regardless of the uncle. Hey, what are you doing? Beating. There were more and more onlookers. Jessica, Daredevil, and even a Spider-Man who is secretly observing. Jessica yelled at the two and immediately rushed over to forcibly separate the two. Her strength may not be enough to defeat the doped bodies, but it is still easy to deal with two ordinary people. Who are you? Pushing the Punisher away, Jessica looked at Danny. My name is Danny Rand. It was a passerby, and when he saw that the people of the Hand Union were chasing this gentleman, he stepped in to help. Danny said simply, you know the Hand Fellowship? Why did you know about the hand joint? His remark aroused the suspicion of several people. Also, inside your fist, there is a special power. What is that? Daredevil's keen sense suddenly detected the power of the iron fist on Danny's fist. This is gas. Danny looked at the vigilant few people and immediately explained. I have been trained in Kunlun, the Eastern Holy Land, since I was a child, and Qi and martial arts are the secret skills over there. Kunlun, Qi? I've only heard it in martial arts movies. You're lying to us, Jessica immediately said angrily. I didn't lie to you. All right. There is Kunlun in this world, there is Qi. Danny was a little impatient. The 5 leaders of the Hand Union Association went out from the Kunlun traders. They took the keel and prepared for immortality. So Kunlun sent me to New York to stop their actions. Who can prove it? Jessica squinted at him. Just as Danny was speechless, a voice came. I can prove it. A figure in the distance slowly walked forward. Tianjin Mo. It's you, Guy. Jessica had some joy on her face. In the country of China, there is indeed the holy land of Kunlun. Qi and martial arts are Kunlun's secret of immortality. Our museum still has contacts with Kunlun. The figure of Tianjin Mo walked from the other end of the street to several people. He looked at Danny, looked at it, and said, Look at your Qi, it seems to be the legendary power of the Iron Fist. It seems that you got his affirmation in the battle with Shuleo. How do you know? Danny immediately looked at Tianjin Mo in disbelief. Museum, there is nothing you don't know. The corners of Tianjin's mouth hooked up a smile. Well, since Tianjin Mo confirmed it for you, it's fine. Jessica came to be a peacemaker. But why did you fight with Frank? He's going to kill this gentleman. Danny immediately complained, pointing angrily at Frank and then at the middle-aged man beside him. He committed a crime, Frank said coldly. He didn't mean to. And he has already changed his mind, Danny argued. Sin cannot be washed away. Frank shook his head. Seeing that the two were about to fight again, several people should stop it immediately. Jessica and Daredevil, who knew Frank's character well, immediately knew the cause and effect of this matter. They stopped Frank and let the middle-aged man escape. Sorry, I don't want to run away anymore. I have nothing left. My wife, my daughter, my life. The middle-aged man shook his head, his eyes full of despair. The next second, he detected the gun that Frank had just thrown aside during the fight. Bang. Nope. Danny looked at the middle-aged man who committed suicide with a sad face. His eyeballs were bloodshot, and looked at Frank. Sin deserves it. Frank's face moved slightly, but he still said coldly. He picked up his gun and walked away indifferently. Damn. Danny pounded the ground, and a big hole suddenly appeared on the ground. So, Mr. Tianjin Mo, why didn't you return to Wagwa? Familiar in the presidential suite, Agent Coulson and Tianjin Mo sat face to face, and the two drank tea and chatted. Alas, you guys let Utopia go, what can I do? Tianjin Yu shrugged his shoulders. Moreover, someone in the museum suddenly suspected that I leaked secrets to you, causing the museum to suffer. No way, this drudgery will be handed over to me. How much do you know about Orphenos? Coulson asked him. Well, not much. But I know that it seems that Orphe Enoch established a base in the United States many years ago, hiding from the museum and looking for traces of King Orpheus. Tianjin Mo said. Damn, why build bases in the USA? Coulson also had a headache. Because in Yen Hongin's notebook, he also wrote a lot about Orpheus coming to New York. Now S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to investigate, but it is also very difficult to investigate. Because Orphe Enoch, in addition to the Chinese, there are also country stealers, countrymen. There are even blacks and whites. Do you want to check the entire population of the United States? This is no longer an interracial contradiction. This is an interracial contradiction. Don't worry so much. As long as the king of Orphe Enoch does not wake up, the Orphe Enoch clan will not be able to make any waves. Tanyuk comforted Coulson. But besides Orpheus, there is His Holiness, the undead. And recently, there is a creature called Amazon in New York City. What a thank you for the research of the Life Foundation. Coulson didn't have a good airway. It's okay, with Kamen Rider here, you can't turn over the waves. Tianjin smiled. By the way, what does the museum think about Kamen Rider? Coulson suddenly asked, looking at Tianjin Mo with burning eyes. What does the museum think about Kamen Rider? Tianjin raised his eyebrows. Then I'll tell the truth, the museum high level is very jealous of Kamen Rider. Of course, what is even more jealous is Yen Tianxin. His ingenuity really scares us. And when it comes to Yen Tianxin, I'm not afraid to tell you. After investigating by the museum's upper echelons, an amazing secret was discovered. What secret? Although Coulson knew what he was going to say next, he pretended to be curious. Yen Tianxin's biological father is likely to be the former deputy director of the museum. Tianjin Mo lowered his voice and said to Coulson, What? Yen Tianxin's father turned out to be. Coulson's eyes widened, and he couldn't fault him at all with his surprised look. That's right, so the museum's attitude towards him is complicated. Some high-level people think that he is unstable and want to get rid of him, and some high-level people think that he is a continuation of the museum's will and should befriend him. Tianjin Yu shrugged his shoulders. Anyway, it has nothing to do with us little minions. You are modest. As a captain of Never, your status is also very high. Coulson laughed. The last plan for Utopia was a complete failure, and I lost so many Gaia memories. I, the captain, am estimated to be at the end. If I can't succeed in capturing Utopia, I'm afraid I won't have good fruit to eat when I go back. Tianjin Mo sighed. I don't know what is the use of Yen Tianxin asking for so many Gaia memories. Perhaps there will be an effect that you did not expect. Coulson muttered. What did you say? Nothing. It's a pleasure to chat with you, Mr. Tianjin Mo. It's getting late, I'll go back first. Coulson stood up and straightened his clothes. After saying goodbye to Tianjin, he returned to the car and prepared to go to Nick Fury to restore his life. Who is that and what does he want to do? Back in the car, Coulson's eyes froze. I saw it on a tall building not far away. A teenager wearing short sleeves and showing his shoulders in the middle of autumn slowly walks on the eaves of a tall building as if playing with a balance beam. Around him, there are no protective measures, all at an altitude of tens of meters. Danger. Come back soon. Coulson couldn't sit still. He immediately got out of the car and ran towards the teenager. Episode 88. Yen Tianxin's younger brother? Off Enoch and the vampire. Hear that? Don't play here, it's dangerous here. Coulson climbed the tall building and looked down, at least more than 50 meters high. If you fall, there will be absolutely no good end. Huh? The teenager turned his head suspiciously and scratched his head, as if wondering who Coulson was. Coulson was also stunned. The teenager in front of him is an Asian face, full of beauty. Moreover, it seems stupid. Kid, come over quickly, your parents will be worried. Coulson knew that he couldn't speak hard at this time, so he gently persuaded. I don't have parents. The boy smiled brightly. Then your family will worry too, Coulson said. I don't have a family either. The teenager smiled even happier. It wouldn't be a neuropathy, would it? Coulson thought to himself, but still worried about the safety of the other party, he said, Son, I believe that there are still people in the world who love you. Don't let them be sad, okay? Uncle, it's okay. I'll be fine. The teenager turned his head and jumped down. Don't, Coulson immediately exclaimed, but could only watch the teenager jump. In his heart-wrenching gaze, the young man got closer and closer to the ground, and he was about to collapse in a pool of blood. Huh? The moment the teenager landed, the sadness in Coulson's eyes instantly turned into surprise. I saw the young man jump to the ground from the eaves more than 50 meters high, and after landing on the ground, he was actually unharmed, and greeted him with a smile. A drop of cold sweat slipped down Coulson's forehead. He immediately rushed down the stairs and chased after the teenager. Director, I found a mysterious teenager near the hotel where Tianjinyu was staying. He jumped from the roof of a building more than 50 meters high, and nothing happened. Received. Okay. Coulson threw himself at Nick Fury as he descended the stairs. Where? Coulson looked around, but there was no trace of the teenager. He looked overhead. There were 3 monitors in this area. He immediately contacted Nick Fury and called up the surveillance. Then I saw the mysterious boy walk away from the gap between the 2 buildings. He immediately chased after him, looked at the surveillance all the way, went around, and finally saw the back of the teenager. I saw him come to a hidden bar, look around, and then walk in. Coulson followed closely. But when he entered the door, somehow he always felt that the eyes of these men and women were wrong. Entering the bar, Coulson suddenly felt an obvious abnormality. In the bar, everyone seems to know each other. And, in the eyes that seemed to them, Coulson always felt a strong malice. That boy, could he have grown up here? Could it be that he was with them and deliberately attracted me? Cold sweat crossed Coulson's forehead. In the bar, there were so many people that it was impossible to see where the teenager had gone. Director, I need support. There seems to be a bit of a question here. Hey, it's you, that kind uncle. Coulson was secretly reporting to Nick Fury, but a figure suddenly appeared in front of him with a smile. Coulson was so nervous that he hung up the call with Nick Fury. Are you here to eat too? The teenager kept smiling and looking at Coulson. Yes. Yes. Coulson coughed softly and squeezed out a smile. I don't believe it. Uncle is very suspicious. But he saw the young man's eyes suddenly narrow. Coulson's nerves instantly tensed to the limit, ready to touch his portable firearm at any time. You must have come to see those girls. But I saw the young man stretching out his finger and laughing at him. Uncle is so old, he also loves to see young girls. Well, you found out. Sorry. Coulson immediately took back his hand near the firearm and smiled awkwardly. It's okay. But the young man said with a grin, Uncle, don't worry, I won't tell others. Okay. Coulson nodded, taking the opportunity to wipe his cold sweat. The 2 sat down at the bar. The teenager said he would invite Coulson to drink. You're not old enough to drink, are you? Coulson was stunned. So you drink, I drink Coke. The teenager opened a can of Coke, but clumsily and took half a day to open it. Coulson saw that he seemed to be wearing a pair of special gloves on his hands, which affected the dexterity of his hands. Why don't you take off your gloves? Coulson asked curiously. Nope. If you take off your gloves, things will turn into sand. Grandpa will be angry. The young man shook his head in distress. Into sand? Coulson was a little puzzled, but he didn't pay much attention either. The 2 clinked glasses and chatted. By the way, after talking to you for so long, I still don't know your name. What is your name? Carlson asked suddenly. My name is Yen Baiki, the teenager replied casually. Yen Baiki. Carlson pronounced the name with some difficulty and asked, are you from Wagwa? Not oh. I'm in the United States, but in the country. Later, my grandfather sent me to New York and asked me to come to my brother. Baiki drank Coke, burped, and laughed. So have you found your brother? Carlson said with concern. Uncle is so stupid. With so many people, how can I find my brother? Baiki gave him a disdainful look. Didn't your grandfather give you any clues? Carlson said helplessly. Oh. Gave a photo. Baiki took out a photo from his pocket and put it on the bar. Carlson picked it up and looked at it, and was immediately surprised. Isn't this Yen Tianxin? Wait, you said your name is Yen Baiki, isn't that this Yen? Carlson got a little water-stained and compared a Chinese character for swallow on the bar. Yes, Yen Baiki nodded. Your brother, is his name Yen Tianxin? Carlson asked tentatively. Yen Tianxin. Baiki was startled, and then a look of surprise appeared on his face. Yes, that's right. My brother's name is Yen Tianxin. Uncle, how do you know? Do you know my brother? If nothing else, I should know. Carlson looked at the teenager in front of him, looking a little strange. Why did a younger brother of Yen Tianxin suddenly appear? Great, uncle, you take me to see my brother. Baiki shouted happily. The two did not see each other, after hearing that Yen Baiki's younger brother was Yen Tianxin. Several men and women around him suddenly flashed a strange brilliance in their eyes. With a burst of eye contact, a man quickly ran towards the back room of the bar. It's like a paper in one. What the hell? In the back room of the bar, there is a hole in the sky, and a huge villa is revealed. In the living room, the light was dim, and a shirtless young man got up from a young girl. The girl's face was bloodless, her eyes were wide, and she had a circle of bloody tooth marks on her neck, obviously losing her life. What's the matter? The young man is the eldest son of the Cromwell family, who had a conflict with Yen Tianxin on the Life Foundation. Guess who's in our bar today? The man looked flattering and said to the young man like a subordinate. Who is it? The youth was impatient. He had just sucked the blood of a virgin, and was only halfway through the meal, but was interrupted by a man. It's Yen Tianxin's younger brother. When the young man heard this, he immediately jumped out of bed. You're lying to me. Yen Tianxin is adopted. Where is the younger brother? The young man looked at the man viciously. It's his own brother, from Huagua. Come to his brother. The man immediately explained. Really fake? The young man let go of the man, and his pupils changed for a while, not looking like a human. How dare I deceive the son of the count? God help me too. The young man laughed, and his face became hideous. Damn Yen Tianxin, since I can't kill you, then kill your brother. Kill all your loved ones. His anger overflowed. Was severely slapped in the face by Yen Tianxin in public. Originally, according to his temper, he should have taken revenge back directly at night. But unexpectedly, Yen Tianxin announced that he was a worm man on the same day. In this way, there is no certainty against him. Moreover, his father also sent a message, forbidding to do anything to Yen Tianxin, otherwise he would be disqualified as an earl heir. Although the young man was angry, he did not dare to disobey his father's orders. You can only swallow the humiliation into your stomach and vent by humiliating human women. Unexpectedly, today finally gave him a chance to take revenge. Can't kill Yen Tianxin, and can't kill his younger brother. Let people block the bar. I will make his brother suffer to death. The youth gave the order. Understood. The man quickly went out to report the letter. Bar counter. Carlson and Baiki obviously didn't know they were being targeted. The two were still chatting and laughing. Or Carlson suddenly realized that something was wrong. The bar suddenly closed the door and locked it. Moreover, in the eyes of the surrounding men and women, there was unconcealed malice. Baiki, be careful, stay by my side. Carlson took Baiki behind him and reached for the gun at his waist. What do you want to do? Carlson yelled at the crowd. Seeing that his purpose was revealed, the men and women around him no longer concealed it, and they all stood up and surrounded Carlson and Baiki. Dada. At the sound of elegant footsteps, the crowd gave way to a passage, and a young man dressed like a nobleman walked up to Carlson and Baiki. Who are you? Why stop us? Carlson looked at the youth. Please allow me to introduce. My name is Notting Cromwell, the eldest son of the Cromwell family. Also the successor to the position of future count, the young man said arrogantly to the two. Count. Sounds so interesting. Can I be? Baiki came out from behind Carlson and looked at the young man with an innocent face. Bold. Countless people immediately scolded Baiki angrily, making him look aggrieved. Quiet. The young man's hand lifted up, and the vampires fell silent. It's so powerful, they don't dare to scream as soon as you say it. Baiki clapped his hands. Even if you are an aristocrat, you cannot ignore the laws of the United States. By doing so, you are already suspected of the crime of illegal detention. As an FBI agent, I have the right to ask you to let us go immediately. Coulson took out his FBI documents and standard pistol from his arms and said to the young man, ha ha ha. But unexpectedly, he took out these two things, which only attracted a burst of ridicule. FBI guys, we don't know how much we've eaten. The youth scoffed. With a sound, the tiger looked at Beiki. I heard that your brother is Yen Tianxin, right? Yes. How, you also know my brother? Beiki looked at him curiously. That's wonderful. The young man took a deep breath excitedly. Coulson's pupils shrank, and he clearly saw the changes in the young man's pupils and teeth. This is actually a vampire. No, I'm afraid the people in this bar are all vampires. Oops, Coulson's forehead was sweating coldly, and his back was already drenched. He wanted to contact Nick Fury and was ready to ask for support, but the bar seems to be equipped with a device for a partition signal, and his news can't be sent alive. Damn it. Coulson covered Beiki dead on his body and aimed his gun at the vampires in front of him. Warning, if you dare to take a step closer, I will shoot. Haha, you open, you open. The vampires no longer concealed and immediately showed their hideous fangs. Like a pack of big bad wolves, pounced on the two little white rabbits Coulson and Beiki. Coulson was about to shoot when he felt a wind pass in his ears. Beiki's body instantly came to him, greeting these 30-odd vampires alone. Danger, Beiki, Coulson exclaimed. In his horrified gaze, Beiki's body instantly distorted, turning into a gray-white, hideous monster with a hideous body. Haha, vampire, I've never played with vampires. Beiki, who had turned into the form of Orfieno, clapped his hands happily. Then meet the vampire attack right. What kind of monster is this? The vampires are usually proud of their strength, speed and sharp teeth and fangs have lost their advantage in front of Orfiner. They looked at the invulnerable monster in front of them in horror and sighed in fear. Ah. Is it only to this extent? Beiki was a little disappointed, and then his tone became low. Then you can only die. I saw his hideous body flash in the vampire group. In an instant, the vampire he touched instantly turned into grey sand. It's like being exposed to the sun, in the blink of an eye. The entire bar was almost completely emptied of vampires, leaving only young nodding Cromwell staring blankly at the thick layer of grey sand on the ground. Episode 89. My brother Oaf Enoch. Nordine Cromwell stared blankly at all this in front of him. My 20 or so subordinates, this is gone? He swallowed hard and looked at the oncoming Beiki. Hey, wait, you can't kill me, I'm from the Cromwell family. Belch. Nordine's eyes widened, watching his body slowly turn into ashes. Hey, uncle, what's wrong with you? Finish solving the enemy. Beiki immediately changed back into his human form and looked at Coulson, who was standing on the side, somewhat overwhelmed. You successfully influenced Phil Coulson and obtained 100 special impact factors. You successfully influenced Phil Coulson and obtained 100 special impact factors. You successfully influenced Phil Coulson and obtained 100 special impact factors. Just now Coulson also provided a large number of impact factors. He looked at the vampires who had all turned into sand and finally understood what Beiki meant by turning into sand. Moreover, he also knows that so far there is only one creature on Earth that can turn others into sand. That is Orfenoch. Yen Beiki is actually an Ophi Enoch. Yen Tianxin's younger brother is actually an Ophi Enoch. Coulson was shocked by the fact and speechless. Uncle, are you afraid of me? Don't worry, Uncle is a good person, I won't hurt Uncle. Beiki smiled innocently. I'm not afraid of you, I just sigh, you can actually solve so many vampires, it's really amazing. Coulson squeezed out a smile and complimented. Is it? Thank you, Uncle. Beiki smiled extremely brightly, and he couldn't see the momentum of killing people without blinking at all. After he finished laughing, don't mold his stomach. I'm so hungry. Beiki jumped into the bar and scavenged for food. How long have you been in New York? Looking at his casual look of rummaging through food, he didn't look like a novice at all. Coulson chuckled in his heart and asked, Come to New York. Well, 4 days. Beiki held up 4 fingers and nodded affirmatively. Then where do you sleep and where do you eat these days? Lots of places to sleep. There are also many places to eat. Beiki smiled and said, there are many safe places, and the food is delicious. Coulson stopped bothering him and picked up his phone to search for news about the latest robberies in New York. Sure enough, I saw Beiki in it. Oh my god. Coulson suddenly looked complicated. In the video, Beiki perfectly integrates into the culture of New York. The ability to buy 0 yuan is very strong. Not only did they rob ordinary supermarkets, but they also robbed places such as well-secured hotels. The elite security personnel and Shumakia were like toys in front of him, being teased at will. What a headache. Looking at the other party's innocent face like a child, Coulson couldn't bear to arrest him directly. Forget it, tell Nick first, see how he arranges. Coulson began to contact Nick Fury in the name of going to the toilet. Ask me what to do. You go directly to contact Yen Tianxin. Let him see what his brother has done. Also, it was an Orphi Enoch that told him. Isn't he very good? Let him deal with it. It's not good to deal with, there are laws to deal with it for him. But Nick Fury was like eating gunpowder today, and his tone was extremely impulsive. Hanging up the phone angrily, Coulson thought about it and still dialed Yen Tianxin's phone. Yes, Mr. Yen, it's me, Coulson. Maybe you don't believe it, I found your brother. Don't hang it yet. It's true, don't lie to you, it's really not possible, you can come in person, I vouch for it in the name of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson sighed and hung up. He rubbed his temples with mixed feelings. You say, every day, why are there so many broken things? How is New York more governed, the more chaotic it is? Night. Outside the Tianjin Intelligent Building, an Argentinian restaurant, Coulson took Yen Beiki and sat on the outdoor bench, waiting for Yen Tianxin's arrival. He had a headache. Yen Beiki was like a child, asking everywhere, playing everywhere, and not a moment was quiet. Everyone else wants to look at themselves like fools. He was afraid that Beiki would slaughter others in anger, so he could talk about it and finally stabilize Beiki by his side. Fortunately, this torturous time passed quickly. Yen Tianxin came. Say on the airship. A Shumajia came over, representing Yen Tianxin's will. Coulson and Beiki got on the elevator to the airship. Beiki was amazed by the surrounding scenery, and his eyes were full of excitement. Coulson looked at him like this, and a smile appeared on his face. Too innocent, at a glance. Soon, the two entered the airship. The airship is very luxuriously decorated, with all kinds of shimatia. There is nothing comparable to the presidential suite in a 5-star hotel. Coulson smelled the air here and felt sweet and delicious. Mr. Yen, this is your brother. Yen Beiki. Coulson took Beiki to Yen Tianxin. Yen Tianxin raised his head and looked at Beiki carefully. I don't know if it's true or not, and I don't know how many children my biological father had. However, DNA testing can't fool people. Yen Tianxin's face was very calm, without any expression. Coulson couldn't see his mood right now. Several medical Shiomagia pushed several instruments over and took samples from Yen Tianxin and Beiki respectively. A series of tests began. This instrument takes half an hour to measure DNA. You guys take a break first. Yen Tianxin snapped his fingers lightly. Immediately, more than a dozen service-oriented Shimagia pushed carts full of food and wine. This is delicious. This is also delicious. Beiki was immediately attracted by the food and ate happily. Although Coulson maintained his posture, after tasting the first bite, the speed of eating couldn't help but become faster. Damn, it's good to have money, you can eat such delicious things every day. Did you come to me from Huagua? Yen Tianxin looked at Beiki, who was eating deliciously, and nodded at him and asked. No, I grew up in America. Beiki replied, I live with my grandfather, and we are in the forest. Later, when Grandpa was leaving, he asked me to come to you. Grandpa? Yen Tianxin frowned. Which grandfather? It's Grandpa Hanagata. Beiki replied with a smile. Then it's not my own grandfather. Yen Tianxin nodded and continued to ask, Grandpa Hua Shape told you, I'm your brother? He didn't say, he just gave me a picture and your name, and asked me to come to New York to find you. Beiki took out the photo from his pocket. Yen Tianxin saw that it was indeed his own photo. Why do you wear gloves when you eat? Suddenly, as if he noticed something, he asked suspiciously. Ahem. Coulson was suddenly nervous, and he didn't know why he was nervous. Because something else touches my hand and it turns into sand. So Grandpa asked me to wear these gloves and didn't allow me to take them off. Touch your hands and turn into sand? Are you a mutant? Yen Tianxin frowned. Take off the gloves, I'll take a look. Wait. Mr. Yen, let me explain to you. Coulson came to Yen Tianxin. Mr. Yen, please borrow here. What's wrong? Yen Tianxin followed him to the side. I'll tell you the truth, Beiki, he's an Ophinus. Coulson told Yen Tianxin all about his encounter with Beiki, Beiki's killing of vampires, and Beiki's robbery. What, Ofano? Yen Tianxin looked at Bai Qi warily. Mr. Yen. Don't be so nervous, according to my observations, Beiki's mind is still a child. He is innocent and playful, but at the same time with childlike innocence and cruelty. If it's good to him, he'll be good to you too. But if you want to hurt him, he will kill you mercilessly. Coulson said, I think he can be guided to be a good person. An Orphinok, can you believe it? Yen Tianxin's eyes flickered. Coulson clearly saw the killing intent in his eyes. Mr. Yen. He may well be your own brother. You can't just kill him. Coulson was a little anxious. I don't know why, he doesn't want something to happen to Beiki. If it's your own brother, then it's even more necessary to kill him. Orfieno can't just keep it. Yen Tianxin squinted his eyes and walked to the medical-type Shiomagia. Boss, the DNA comparison results are out. After DNA comparison, the probability of your blood relationship with Mr. Beiki is 99.9%. Shumakia smiled and reported the data. Sure enough, Coulson's heart tightened and looked at Yen Tianxin. I saw Yen Tianxin's face cloudy, and I didn't know what he was thinking. Uncle, brother, what is the result? Are you my brother? Beiki took 2 pieces of ice cream and came to the two. Like a child, he held 2 sticks of ice cream in his hand, licked one and took a bite, and looked at it in turn. Oh. That's right, I'm your brother. Yen Tianxin touched Bakey's head, as if accepting this result. Really? Bakey's eyes lit up. Then you are my brother. Can I eat so much delicious food every day? Eat as much as you want. Yen Tianxin looked at his innocent face and also squeezed out a smile. Great. Bakey was very happy and immersed in the world of food. What are you going to do? Coulson asked Yen Tianxin, afraid that he would kill Bakey. You seem worried about him? Yen Tianxin asked rhetorically. Yes. He's still a kid, and I don't think I should be so him. Coulson said. Child? An Orphe Enoch who can easily kill hundreds of people and make others ashes, you treat him as a child? Yen Tianxin couldn't understand these Bai's thoughts. Sometimes it is cruel to ordinary people, but it has great compassion for some bad guys. Yes, we can totally lead him to the right path. Coulson nodded. Then try it. Yen Tianxin said, I will discipline him well, but if he really dares to hurt others casually, even if he is my brother, I will kill him mercilessly. Okay. I know your concerns. After chatting with Yen Tianxin, looking at Bakey, who was eating deliciously, Coulson smiled heartily. Left inside the airship, Osborne Enterprise building. In the shareholders' room, the board of directors of Osborne Enterprises gathers. Good news for everyone. Starting today, we at Osborne will surpass Hansen Industries to become the second largest supplier to the U.S. military after Stark Industries. That is to say, directors, our stock will rise all the way, and Osborne will get better and better. In a brilliant and bright conference room, Norman Osborne, the founder of the thriving company, is talking to the directors. That's great news. We are planning to sell our shares, which can make a lot more money. Several directors glanced at each other, and there was joy in their eyes. What are you talking about? Norman Osborne frowned, and his smug smile turned into deep doubt. Forgot to tell you. Norman, a few days ago, Discovery Aerospace announced a collaborative research plan with Tianxin Intelligence. They are currently raising money to scale up and need to gobble up a lot of companies. Moreover, the conditions they opened are so good that we can't help but be impressed. A gray-haired director held up the coffee and told the reason. Then why didn't you tell me? Norman looked at him angrily. They don't want to cause a fight among senior management, which will add a lot of trouble. So, they're going to ask you to quit, and you're going to quit within a month. How dare you do this to me? I founded this company. Do you know how much I sacrificed? Norman Osborne was emotional and yelled at the board. Sorry, Norman, this was unanimously approved by the board of directors. You don't have to worry, we will compensate you for your efforts. It can guarantee that you and your son will still live a prosperous life. By the way, we will announce your withdrawal from Osborne on the day of the World Peace Celebration. One director apologized. It turns out that it has long been discussed. Norman Osborne suddenly lost his soul and froze in place. His eyes gradually scattered. The directors passed him one by one, and no one looked at him again. You're done playing, Norman. They're all betraying you. It was quiet for a long time, and it seemed that a voice in his ear said to him. His face, which had been dull for a long time, was also in the empty conference room, and slowly began to twist. Episode 90. Peter and Uncle Ben. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Norman Osborne gasped and his face twisted. Killing intent, malice, anger. Countless negative emotions flashed in his face. Kill them, Norman. Peel them and cramp. Unload them in 8 pieces. Tie them up as a whole family, burn them together. Go ahead, Norman, you can do it. The voice in my ear is getting clearer and clearer, and the words are becoming more and more seductive. Bang! There was a knock on the door. The voice disappeared instantly, and the hideous color on Norman's face returned to normal. He floated into a gentle smile and looked at the secretary who was knocking on the door. Boss, the people from the Army Procurement Department are here. Dr. Shi Chang is receiving them. Are you going? The secretary knew that Norman Osborne was in a bad mood now and asked softly. Go, of course you have to go. Norman woke up instantly. The people in the military procurement department are his only chance to turn over. If this order fails, then he will not have the capital to fight against Exploration Aerospace plus Tianxin Intelligence. Quickly come to the research center of the Osborne building. A line of men in military uniform was walking in front of them. Hey, General Stryker. Long time no see. What do you think of Osborne's new single-player weapon system? Norman Osborne instantly greeted him warmly. The other party is the head of the U.S. military's weapons procurement department, and he places orders for weapons. Sorry, Norman. I looked at your individual weapons, the armor and the gliding wings. To be honest, it's a lot better than the previous equipment. The armor is very resistant to hits, and the pull and liftoff power of the glider is amazing. However, compared to the new armor recently developed by Exploration Aerospace and Tianxin Intelligence, it is a little far behind. The only thing we value is the fortified serum you research. But unfortunately, your enhanced serum still failed to give me the finished product. General Stryker shook his head, turned and walked away. General Stryker, General Stryker. Looking at General Stryker leaving, Norman hurried to the silent researcher. Except for Dr. Shi Cheng, everyone else goes back. Hearing Norman's words, except for a middle-aged man wearing a white coat and a Mediterranean head, the rest immediately set off and walked out. Angry Norman Osborn has a unique majesty. Dr. Shi Cheng, what happened to the human fortification serum test? Isn't the finished product manufactured? Why don't you show them to General Stryker? Norman stepped forward and questioned Dr. John. Because the clinical trial didn't work out. We subjected 100 rats to vaporization inhalation tests, and 99 rats, which were significantly stronger, several times stronger, and showed no side effects. Dr. Shi Cheng pushed the black-framed glasses on his nose, and was also a little anxious. But the last rat, it's dead? Norman Osborn frowned. Death is definitely an undesirable phenomenon in biological research. No, the last rat, it is stronger and smarter than the other rats, but it's also more crazy and violent. It's very aggressive, like crazy. Dr. Shi Cheng shook his head, his face solemn. This experiment must be started over. We have to find out what makes it crazy. All over again? Impossible, do you know? We are running out of time. The board of directors has all fallen to Exploration Aerospace and Tianjin Intelligence. The US military is also slowly gravitating towards them. If we don't come up with the results, the military will give all orders and research funds to Exploration Aerospace and Tianjin Intelligence. In this way, Osborn Enterprise is really completely finished. Norman Osborn looked hideous. I want you to conduct human experiments within 3 days. In 3 days. Impossible. Norman, something will really happen in 3 days. We can't risk other people's lives. Dr. Shi Cheng shook his head frantically, very resistant to this kind of human experiment. Norman, give me a little more time. It's a big deal that we will start all over again. All over again? To put it lightly, we don't have a chance to start all over again. Human enhancement serum must be done quickly. I have already pressed all the destinies of myself and Osborn Enterprise on the fortified serum. A hint of madness flashed in Norman's eyes. Since you are not willing to risk other people's lives, then I will be the first experimenter. Are you crazy, Norman? How can you experiment yourself? You are the backbone of Osborn. Because I am the backbone of Osborn, I want to be the first to become strong. Norman picked up a green human enhancement serum, his eyes flashing dangerously. I beg you one last time, don't do it. Norman, we can also study the optimized ones. Shi Cheng, don't be so instigated. Scientific experiments are inherently risky. I have a lot of confidence in my products. Despite Dr. Johnson's objections, Norman Osborn took off his shirt and forcibly lay down on the lab bed. Give me Pumaris. Norman pointed to the drawer. What's the use of this? Dr. Shi Cheng asked as instructed to bring Primarize suspiciously. Primarize allows the fortified serum to enter the bloodstream faster. Let me better absorb the strengthening serum and complete the strengthening more thoroughly. Norman looked up and drank Primrets. Let's go. Letting Dr. Smith immobilize himself, Norman issued the order. Dr. Shi Cheng had no choice, gritted his teeth, and could only push Norman into the vaporization experimental device, and then pressed the button. Come on. Turn the power to the maximum. Norman felt the change in his body and immediately shouted. Dr. Shi Cheng had already ridden the tiger, and could only drive the machine to full power at Norman's request. Ah! Norman suddenly let out a heart-rending scream. Not good, Norman. Dr. Shi Cheng leaned on the tempered glass and observed Norman's state. He was found rolling his eyes, delirium, muscle spasms, foaming at the lobes of his head. Apparently something went wrong with human experiments. Dr. Shi Cheng immediately shut down the machine and dragged Norman out. Norman, Norman. Dr. Shi Cheng came to Norman and kept slapping his face and shouting loudly in his ear. However, Norman did not respond at all, keeping his eyes closed. Dr. Shi Cheng trembled and reached out to touch Norman's nose. No more breathing. He lay on the other's chest again. The heartbeat is gone. Death. He's dead. Dr. Shi Cheng immediately became painful. I don't know if it's because of Norman's death, or I'm afraid that this experimental accident will ruin my future. I'm sorry, Norman. If only I could be tough, stop you. Dr. Shi Cheng cried, ready to call the emergency number. He trembled, his fingers pressing the number on the phone. Just as he was about to dial, a big hand snatched his phone. Dr. Shi Cheng was suddenly startled and immediately looked back. Norman, are you all right? Dr. Shi Cheng's panic immediately turned into surprise. Norman Osborn actually stood up. Something seems to have happened. Norman patted his brain, a little confused. I'm like, evolved. A strange smile suddenly appeared on his face. The body immediately expands and twists. Under Dr. Shi Cheng's shocked gaze, Norman turned into a monster with a gray-white hard body and a hideous and ugly face. You. Dr. Shi Cheng was terrified and pointed at Norman, not daring to recognize each other. Dr. Shi Cheng, I'm sure, I've really evolved. Norman looked at his ophionic body through the reflection of the glass, and was very excited. Is this the effect of the fortified serum? Dr. Shi Cheng swallowed his spit, stood up, and asked. No, this is the guidance of the gods. Norman smiled triumphantly. Dr. Shi Cheng saw that in his shadow, Norman's original appearance actually appeared. So, what should I do with the fortified serum? Dr. Shi Cheng asked. Fortified serum? What is it for? Norman smiled contemptuously. Only your own evolution is the real choice. Suddenly, Norman stared at Dr. Shi Cheng with an inexplicable smile on his face. Dr. Shi Cheng suddenly felt a chill behind his back. Dr. Shi Cheng, you've been following me for so long. Be faithful to me. I'll let you evolve with me. Looking at Norman's excited face, Dr. Shi Cheng suddenly shook his head. Hug. Sorry, Norman, I don't want to now, don't want to. Yes, a thick tentacle immediately stretched out from within Norman's body and inserted into Dr. Shi Cheng's body. After Dr. Shi Cheng was penetrated by Norman, his face instantly turned pale and he rolled his eyes. In the next second, he lost his voice and fell to the ground. Let me see, Dr. Shi Cheng, will you be my partner on the path of evolution together? Norman's eyes burned and looked at Dr. Shi Cheng. In his gaze, Dr. Shi Cheng stood up abruptly. Norman's eyes lit up, and he was about to hug him. Snap! Dr. Shi Cheng instantly turned into a pool of gray sand and completely disappeared. Pity. It seems that you are not. Norman shook his head in disappointment. Professor Connors, I extracted some cells from a New York monster, maybe it may help you. Osborne Building. At the Institute of Biology, Peter came to Professor Connors again. Monster cells? Professor Connors pushed his glasses and led Peter in. Yes, it's a man-eating monster that has been spreading a lot recently. They have a strong self-healing function, so I found a way to get a little over. I think this might work for you. Peter laughed. I'll take a look. Connors took the test tube containing the Amazon cells that Peter handed him. He did a simple study, and then his eyes lit up instantly. Peter, that's right. This kind of cell has a strong regenerative repair function, Connors said excitedly. Incorporating it into my biological serum may have a stronger effect. Thank you so much, Peter. Looking at Professor Connors, who was busy, Peter scratched his head. I don't know if Amazon cells were good or bad when they gave Professor Connors, but looking at his happy look, no matter how bad it is, it can't be bad. Peter didn't bother him either, and went straight home. Peter, where have you been? Why come back so late? Did you know that your aunt waited alone in the wind for 2 hours? As soon as he arrived home, Peter saw Uncle Ben sitting at the door, and accusations from Uncle Ben came over. Peter was instantly shocked. Tonight, I made an appointment to go buy bread with Aunt May. But because he went to Osborne Enterprise, he forgot about it. Did Aunt May wait for herself for 2 hours? Peter blamed himself a little. It's okay, Ben, don't blame him. Ahem. Aunt May argued Uncle Ben's words in the living room, but soon coughed violently. That's right, she has a cold. You heard it. You and your aunt, my wife, have agreed to go home together, but you forgot about this agreement. Don't answer the phone either. Leave her alone to walk 2 blocks on this empty cold night and then wait for 2 hours at the subway entrance. Uncle Ben said angrily to Peter. I'm sorry. Peter apologized to Aunt May. It's okay, Peter, no need to apologize. Aunt May coughed lightly. May, you're taking sides with him. I didn't favor him. Listen, kid. Uncle Ben turned the spearhead to Peter. You are too much like your father. It is simply carved out of a mold. But your father, no matter what he does, has his own set of rules. He believes that if a person has the ability to help others, then he has this moral responsibility to help others. The greater the ability of a person, the greater the responsibility. This is not an option, but a responsibility. Well said, then where is he? What? Uncle Ben frowned. I said, so my father, where is he now? Peter looked at Uncle Ben, who opened his mouth and couldn't say anything. Isn't it also his responsibility to stand here and tell me these truths? How dare you say that? Peter, Uncle Ben was a little angry. How dare I? How can you say that again? Peter said angrily, turning and walking out the door. He hated to close the door. With a bang, the tempered glass door shattered. He looked back through the cracked door. I saw Aunt May's sadness and saw Uncle Ben's confusion and doubts. I also saw my own loneliness. Tears filled his eyes, and he turned and ran out a little.